Chapter 77. Chi-Chi? The white tiger's blood-red eyes flickered slightly. It nodded its small head and roared happily. Obviously he was very satisfied with his new name. Yiqing Luo teased Chi-Chi for a while more. Looking at the palm-sized little white tiger's obedient look, the smile on her face grew even wider. In her cat form, Chi-Chi did not have any strange smell. She wondered if Chi-Chi, who had turned into a white tiger, would be able to make her faint from the stench, just like in her dreams. Thinking of that dream, Yiqing Luo suddenly congealed. He placed Chi-Chi at the head of the bed and sent his divine sense into the azure dew bracelet. Old song. Yiqing Luo saw at one glance that the old man who said he was going to check on White Tiger's power storage was leisurely lying in the thin mist. When Old Man Song heard her voice, he almost fell from the mist. "Lass, aren't you cultivating your relationship with Chi-Chi? Why are you here again?" When he said that, Yiqing Luo was enlightened. It turned out that Old Man Song had been hiding in the azure dew bracelet all along, eavesdropping on her interaction with Chi-Chi. "Old Man Song, are you hiding something from me?" Yiqing Luo frowned slightly and stared at him fiercely. Ever since Chi-Chi appeared, Old Man Song had been acting strangely. Something was definitely wrong. "This old man has many things to hide from you. You are still a little girl. Before the time is right, this old man will not say a word." "Fine, if you don't want to answer, I'll ask." Yiqing Luo raised her brows and raised a finger. "First question, what was that dream I had?" Then he raised his second finger and said, "Second question. Why did the white tiger, one of the 4 great saint beasts, choose me in my dream? On the battlefield that was littered with corpses, no one could see or touch her. Why was Chi-Chi the only one who pounced on him? And even jumped from a dream to reality? After all, it was the first time he came to this world. The original owner's understanding of this world was too little. He was full of questions, but he could not get any answers. Old Man Song was also clearly avoiding her. Moreover, Old Man Song's expression was one of shock when he found out that she had contracted Chi-Chi. However, that kind of surprise was not because she had inexplicably formed a contract with one of the 4 great sacred beasts. Instead, she was surprised that Chi-Chi would take the initiative to look for her. As expected, Old Man Song's expression froze. After a long period of silence, he coughed dryly. "This question, how could I possibly know? I've been sealed in the azure dew bracelet for who knows how many hundreds or thousands of years. I've long since lost track of the matters of the outside world." Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes suspiciously. Seeing that she still wanted to ask, Old Man Song suddenly changed the topic. "That's right, lass, didn't you find the letter your mother left behind in the secret compartment last time?" Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as she pondered deeply for a moment. If Old Man Song didn't want to say anything, even if she tried to coerce him, act spoiled and cute, Old Man Song might not say anything. Forget it, when the time comes, Old Man Song will naturally tell her. On this point, Yiqing Luo absolutely believed in Old Man Song. Thus, he didn't pursue the matter any further. Following Old Man Song's words, he said, "Yeah, I haven't had the time to see it yet." That day, in a secret compartment under her pillow, she found 2 letters left behind by her mother. Before she could read them, she was disturbed by Yi Fingyu. Speaking of which, she really should take a look. Why did Yang Qin specially leave 2 letters for her and Xiaoyu? And why did she hide it so deeply? Was it to prevent anyone from discovering it? Yi Tianquang? Yiqing Luo's mind immediately flashed this name. If it was really to prevent Yi Tianquang. Chapter 78. Yiqing Luo pondered for a moment and took out the brocade box her mother left behind from the profound phoenix ring. This was inside the azure dew bracelet, so she didn't have to worry about outsiders around. Anyway, when she woke up, she didn't see Dmo Xian, nor did she sense his presence. Old Man Song dared to appear in her room in his spiritual form. This was enough to prove that Dmo Xian was indeed not in the Three Springs sect. Therefore, she could boldly open the brocade box and take out the 2 letters. Yiqing Luo and her mother's relationship had always been deep. Right now, holding these 2 letters and looking at her mother's familiar handwriting, Yiqing Luo felt her nose turn slightly sour. Her fingers trembled as she opened the envelope. Inside was a piece of yellowed paper. What surprised Yiqing Luo the most was the material of the paper. It obviously looked like a thin piece of paper, but when she touched it, it actually felt like leather. A small piece stacked layer upon layer. When it was spread out on the table, it was the size of half a wooden table. This is... Yiqing Luo was astonished. She stretched out her finger and stroked along the paper. This was not a letter at all, but a map. It was an extremely complicated and dazzling map. On the paper that was the size of half a wooden table, densely packed routes were marked. Even Yi-Ching Luo couldn't guarantee that she would be able to move unimpeded in this map. Why did her mother leave her such a complicated map? Her heart was filled with mixed feelings. Yi-Ching Luo's slender brows knitted into a ball. What an intricate map. Old Man Song floated in midair, glanced at the map and couldn't help but sigh. Yi-Ching Luo suddenly looked up. Do you know what place this map is? Old Man Song frowned and stared carefully for a while, stroking his grizzled beard. This old man has roamed the Nirvana realm for many years, but I have never seen this map, nor have I seen a place that matches this map? Even Old Man Song didn't know. This map, what kind of place was it? Yi-Ching Luo glanced at the other letter in the brocade box. She opened it. It was a letter. She thought that in the envelope, there would also be a complicated map. She was still thinking if the box and the 2 letters that her mother left behind were maps. She was going to form a treasure hunting and digging team. Nyangqing's graceful handwriting is on the letter paper. My child, if you sees the brocade box, I implore you to deliver these 2 letters to your sister as soon as possible. What I'm about to say next is what mother wants Luo to say. This map belongs to Luo. Only Luo can reach the final destination. Promise mother that after you get the map, you must not tell anyone. You must protect yourself. This map must not be made known to anyone. Otherwise, it will bring about a fatal disaster. Towards the end, his handwriting became slightly weak, as if he didn't have the strength to continue writing. Yi-Ching Luo's vision looked towards the map on the table as her expression turned grave. What kind of map was it? And it would bring about a fatal disaster? Yi-Ching Luo was getting more and more interested in understanding the destination of this map. With a wave of her hand, she stored the map and letter into the profound phoenix ring. As soon as she came out of the azure dew bracelet, Yi-Ching Luo's ears twitched. She heard the sound of hurried footsteps, sometimes heavy and sometimes light. When she reached the door, Yi-Ching Luo could hear that person's heavy breathing. Chapter 79. Was Ziling. Yi-Ching Luo got out of bed just as Ziling rushed in. She held her lame leg and panted anxiously, "Miss 8th young master." 8th young master was punished by master. Yi-Ching Luo's eyes narrowed. Yi Fengyu's punishment was expected. Yi Tianquang was seriously injured and full of anger. At this critical juncture, Yi Fengyu wanted to express his concern, and at the same time, plead for leniency for his older sister. Yi Tianquang would naturally vent his anger on him. The other concubines had long hated Yi Fengyu for occupying the position of the first wife's son for many years and would fan the flames. With his temper, it would be strange if he didn't suffer. Yi-Ching Luo was in no hurry. If she didn't let Yi Fengyu suffer and hand over his heart to the wrong person, he would never learn to grow up. Did he follow Yi-Ching Qian all the way to Yi Tianquang's bedroom? Yi-Ching Luo didn't even bother to call him by his name. Ziling was startled and immediately looked around. As a daughter, it was unfilial to call an elder by his name. She made sure there was no one around and nodded with relief. Then he knelt outside the bedroom until Yi Tianquang woke up and wanted to plead for me. Instead, he was humiliated by the second and third concubines and sent to the ancestral hall? Ziling's eyes widened. "Miss, how do you know so much? Don't tell me, you were there too?" Sure enough, Yi Fengyu really followed her plan and carried it out one by one. Should she say that she knew him too well or that he was stupid enough to be understood at a glance? This was also the reason why she specifically asked Ziling to follow behind. To the ancestral hall. Yi-Ching Luo straightened her clothes and led Ziling to the ancestral hall. She rushed to the ancestral hall and was stopped by 2 guards. "7th Miss, this is the Yi family's ancestral hall. No one can enter without the sovereign's order." The guards were ordered by the second madam to never let Yi-Ching Luo step into the ancestral hall. Yi-Ching Luo sneered, "Is it the sovereign's order or the second concubine's?" This form of address caused the guards to look at each other, hesitating. Yi-Ching Luo was the Yi family's first wife's daughter. As for the second madam, she was just a concubine, not even a concubine. Only the people in the mansion called her madam, in order to please the second madam. Thinking of the recent period of time, the entire residence was circulating about Yi-Ching Luo's change. The 2 attendants immediately felt their hair stand on end. He couldn't move aside, but he also couldn't not move aside. Yi-Ching Luo ran out of patience. She raised her palms and rolled up 2 huge waves, directly bombarding the chests of the 2 attendants. The attendant flew out. Yi-Ching Luo led Ziling to kick open the door of the ancestral hall and walked in to take a look. A ball of anger spread in his heart. Her pair of enchanting eyes were also filled with sparks of fire. The ancestral hall was dark, illuminated only by 2 white candles. The candlelight swayed back and forth, illuminating the spirit tablets. It added to the strange atmosphere. 8th young master. After seeing the situation in the ancestral hall, Ziling was also frightened and cried out. Sister. Yifengyu heard the voice and turned to look. That immature and handsome little face was covered with a thick layer of sweat. Yiqing Luo's eyesight could see everything clearly in the dark. She clearly saw that Yifengyu's lips had been bitten and had traces of blood. He grimaced in pain but forced a smile and called out to her, Sister, I'm fine, you go back and rest first. Fine? You call this fine? Chapter 80. Yifengyu knelt in front of the memorial tablet table, wearing only an inner shirt. His inner shirt was torn in several places. Yiqing Luo could see that it was whip marks. What made Yiqing Luo most furious was, her brother was kneeling on the tiles. On a few bumpy and broken tiles. The sharp tiles had cut the skin of Yifengyu's knee and blood oozed out, staining the tiles and the ground red. Those people from the Yi family actually used such cruel means to deal with her brother. Get up. Yiqing Luo strode in, her tone cold. Sister. Yifengyu's face was pale, but he bit his lips and shook his head. Father said that as long as I kneel here for a day and a night, he will forgive you. Get up. Yiqing Luo's tone became heavier, her eyes became colder. Yifengyu opened his mouth and was about to speak. If you don't get up from now on, I don't have a brother like you. Yiqing Luo was really angry. Full of anger, raging in the bottom of her heart. Since I dared to do it, I don't need any forgiveness. What's more, Yi Tianquang is not qualified to talk to me about forgiveness. Yiqing Luo's eyes were cold, directly to Yifengyu. If you still think of me as your sister, stand up now. Sister. Yifengyu looked like he wanted to cry but had no tears. He could see that his sister was really angry. But father was father after all. What his sister did was against filial piety. If this got out, the entire West Continent and even the Nirvana realm would laugh at his sister for a lifetime. He didn't spend much time with his sister, but he knew her temperament very well. If he didn't get up, his sister would definitely turn around and leave, not acknowledging him as her brother. His heart was filled with anxiety. He wanted to move his body, but that only caused the tiles on his knees to dig even deeper into his body. The pain made his body tremble uncontrollably. Ziling, let's go. Yiqing Luo sneered, turned around and left without saying a word. Ziling followed behind, looking at Yifengyu anxiously, then caught up with Yiqing Luo to plead. But when faced with Yiqing Luo's expressionless face, Ziling was stunned speechless. Sister. Yifengyu was anxious, seeing that Yiqing Luo was about to walk out of the ancestral hall. He immediately stood up and wanted to chase after her. Just as he straightened his legs, a tearing pain came from his badly mutilated knees, causing him to suck in a breath of cold air. He fell to the ground, breathing heavily. Sister, don't go, don't go. Yiqing Luo halted her footsteps. But she did not turn back. She just stood at the entrance of the ancestral hall and looked at him coldly with her clear eyes. Miss 8th young master's leg. Ziling saw that her miss had softened, so she took the opportunity to speak up, wanting to help Yifengyu. Walk over by yourself. Yiqing Luo's cold voice interrupted Ziling's thoughts. Miss, step by step, walk in front of me and swear to me that you are my Yiqing Luo's younger brother. You have backbone, you have guts. From today onwards, this pair of knees will not kneel to the heavens, not kneel to the earth, not kneel to anyone. Yiqing Luo's voice was cold as ice. She doted on her younger brother Yifengyu. She wanted to train her younger brother well. However, if Yifengyu was unable to mature no matter what, she would definitely not waste her time on a hopeless person. Kneeling is the way of the weak. Chapter 81. Yifengyu stared at Yiqing Luo in a daze, his pupils dilating little by little. In his heart, thousands of waves were set off because of Yiqing Luo's words. He knelt in front of Yi Tianquang's bedroom. He let the second and third household's concubines insult him. Second madam, in order to avenge her own daughter, used a soft whip and ruthlessly lashed him. He thought that this was to make Yi Tianquang forgive Yiqing Luo. So, it was okay for him to suffer a little for his sister. But he forgot Yiqing Luo's character. How could she care about Yi Tianquang's forgiveness? Sister. I understand. Yifengyu lowered his eyes. Thinking of this period of time, Yiqing Luo's teachings and the words she said to him. He was a man. A real man with an indomitable spirit was unyielding, unyielding and unyielding. There were many ways to protect his sister. But this time he chose the stupidest one. Even if he really knelt for a day and night, his father would not let his sister off. There were too many uncertain factors. It was better to grasp all the certainty in his own hands. Yiqing Luo looked at him indifferently, watching his pair of dazed and helpless eyes regain their brilliance. Her worried heart finally felt at ease. Yi Fengyu endured the pain and climbed up. Two bloody legs, swaying, supported his body. Step by step, he approached Yiqing Luo with incomparable difficulty. Every time he took a step forward, the smile on Yiqing Luo's lips deepened a little. Until he walked in front of her. Very good, you better remember today's pain. Yiqing Luo smiled and stretched out her hand to touch his messy hair. Immediately, she looked at Ziling. Bring little Yu to my courtyard. Ziling got permission, nodded repeatedly and quickly walked to his side, holding his arm. Before the three of them had time to go out of the ancestral hall, they heard a sharp mocking voice. Seventh Miss, the ancestral hall is where the Yi family's ancestors are placed. How can you behave atrociously here? Outside the door, second madam, surrounded by several old women, slowly walked in. Old master is the one who punished eighth young master. If you want to take eighth young master away, you have to ask for old master's permission first. Second madam's eyes were filled with hatred towards Yiqing Luo. How could he not hate them? His two precious daughters were seriously injured one after another. Yiqing Ling's jade heart was destroyed, turning her into a cripple. Yiqing Qian was almost disfigured, and if it wasn't for the medicine she got from her maiden family, her eldest daughter's face would really be ruined. All these were caused by this slut Yiqing Luo. Just as the second madam was about to step into the ancestral hall, a soft voice drifted over with the wind. According to the rules, second aunt, you are not allowed to enter this ancestral hall. The word second Yinyang caused second madam's face to turn as pale as paper. What she hated the most were these three words. She was a concubine of the Yi family. Her name could not be included in the Yi family's genealogy, nor did she have the right to enter the ancestral hall. Seventh Miss is not only ruthless, even your mouth is so powerful. Second madam's eyes were sinister, her hands under her robe tightly curled into fists. Are you human? Yiqing Luo raised her eyebrows slightly, smiling faintly. You. Second madam stretched out her hand and pointed at Yiqing Luo, her whole body trembling with anger. A good dog doesn't stand in the way. Yiqing Luo smiled again. Chapter 82. Yiqing Luo threw a look at Ziling. Ziling understood. She helped Yi Fengyu over the threshold of the ancestral hall and walked out. Second madam glared at Yi Fengyu fiercely, and a few maids behind her went up to stop Ziling. Without master's order, eighth young master must kneel in the ancestral hall today. Second madam growled bitterly. Didn't Yiqing Luo care about her brother? Then she would let Yiqing Luo have a taste of the pain she felt for the people she cared about. She must be prepared to bear the consequences if she dared to hurt her two daughters. The more second madam thought about it, the more hatred burned in her heart. She clenched her fists and a murderous look appeared on her gentle face. Take eighth young master back to the ancestral hall. Ziling was a cripple and Yi Fengyu was injured all over. How could they move when those maids blocked their way? Just as the old maids were about to pull them apart with a fierce look, a silent blast of energy exploded around them. Those old maids were inexplicably sent flying. Second madam's expression changed and she took a step back, staring at Yiqing Luo in horror. Speaking of second madam's identity, it was a bit embarrassing. She was a collateral relative of the Yuqi family. This was also one of the reasons why Yiqing Luo wanted to provoke the feud between the Yuqi family and the Three Springs sect. A collateral relative of a profound practitioner's family naturally had a high level of profound cultivation. Second madam clearly felt that just when the maids were about to catch Ziling and Yi Fengyu, Yiqing Luo's body suddenly rose a cold wave of qi. That wave of qi was so powerful that it made people tremble. Immediately, those maids were sent flying by the wave of qi. However, from beginning to end, Yiqing Luo did not move at all. To be able to release profound qi without making a sound, how strong was Yiqing Luo? Second madam felt a chill down her spine and looked at Yiqing Luo with fear in her eyes. But how could she be willing to bow down to Yiqing Luo? At this moment, suddenly a gentle laughter came. We are all family, why bother to fight and hurt each other's harmony? They looked towards the direction of the voice. A man in a white robe walked over leisurely, waving a folding fan. There was an olive-colored python belt around his waist, and a jade pendant hung from it. His face was also very good. His skin was like jade, and his pair of warm eyes seemed to carry a myriad of tenderness. Yi Fengru, the second young master of the Yi clan. Yi Qingluo's mind suddenly flashed this person's name. Sure enough, he lived up to his name, looking like a refined and noble young master. Second young master. The second madam's face darkened when she saw him. The maids around him, as well as Ziling, bowed their heads and greeted respectfully, second young master. Yi Qingluo raised her brows and carefully sized up Yi Fengru as her lips curled into a meaningful smile. Yi Fengru was in the Yi clan. Although he didn't follow Yi Tianquang, he was in charge of the Yi clan's business and Three Springs sect's affairs. However, he was in charge of all the expenses of the Three Springs sect. He was equivalent to the housekeeper of the Yi clan. Although Yi Fengru seemed as warm as jade, his eyes were filled with a bit of gloominess. This person was definitely not as simple as he seemed on the surface. Manage? Family? He really managed this family obediently. In the entire Three Springs sect, who did not respect Yi Fengru. This was the power of Yi Fengru. Second young master, you came at the right time, come and judge. Second madam's eyes rolled and suddenly complained to Yi Fengru. Chapter 83. Second madam pushed everything onto Yi Qingluo and brought up Yi Tianquang's orders. As long as Yi Fengru was willing to stand on her side, Yi Qingluo would not be able to escape today. Yi Fengru lightly swept a glance at Yi Qingluo and immediately shifted his line of sight to the inside of the ancestral hall, on those few tiles. The tiles were stained with blood and so was the ground. Looking at the wounds all over Yi Fengru's body, anyone who wasn't blind could tell what the truth was. Yi Qingluo didn't say anything. She wanted to see who this second brother of hers who was in charge of the inner court, was. All eyes were on Yi Fengru. A moment later, Yi Fengru's lips curled into a faint smile as he stared at Yi Fengru. Just when everyone thought that he was going to judge, they heard him say something irrelevant. Eighth younger brother, I heard that you've been admitted to the Heavenly Academy? What was going on? The second madam's expression immediately changed and she was extremely embarrassed. Yi Fengru was directly ignoring the second madam. He didn't put the second madam in his eyes at all. Yi Qingluo was also slightly stunned, not understanding the meaning of Yi Fengru's words. Yes. I received the admission notice yesterday, Yi Fengru replied softly. Second brother is in high profound class 2. If he is bullied in the academy he can come to class 2 to look for second brother. Yi Fengru's gentle eyes narrowed slightly as if he was happy for his brother. Yi Fengru, who was originally weak and leaning on Ziling's support, suddenly raised his head. Gao Xian, his tone was filled with yearning. Seeing Yi Fengru in a trance, muttering the two words Gao Xian in a daze, the smile on Yi Fengru's face gradually deepened. Eighth younger brother, go back and recuperate. The Heavenly Academy is different from ordinary academies. Yi Fengru pretended to be concerned. For new students who have just entered the academy, other than the admission test there's also the ability test. That's the test that decides which class you'll be assigned to study in. It's extremely important. Yi Fengru's eyes immediately lit up, and the corners of his mouth curled into a faint smile. Thank you for your guidance, second brother. Yi Fengru waved his hand dismissively and motioned for Ziling to quickly help Yi Fengru back. The second madam's face was extremely gloomy. Listening to Yi Fengru and Yi Fengru's brotherly conversation, she gnashed her teeth in anger. Second young master, he can't leave. The second madam stood in front of Yi Fengru. It is the master who wants to punish the eighth young master. The eighth young master cannot leave the ancestral hall. The corner of Yi Fengru's lips curled up, and he displayed a scholarly air. Second mother, eighth brother is only a 15-year-old child. You're making him kneel on such sharp tiles. Aren't you trying to cripple eighth brother's legs? At this point, he suddenly lowered his voice and smiled even more gently. If father knew that you destroyed the legs of the Yi clan's legitimate son, making the Three Springs sect the laughingstock of the Western continent, what would he do? The second madam shuddered and her expression changed drastically. Yi Fengru chuckled a few times, then waved his fan and gracefully left. The second madam was frightened, and when she saw that Yi Fengru's knees were badly mutilated and he couldn't even stand steadily, she didn't dare to act rashly. He immediately ordered the two children in charge of guarding the ancestral hall to clean up the tiles and blood in the hall. He didn't have the mood to bother about Yi Qingluo. Yi Qingluo looked at Yi Fengru's back as he left, her eyes flashed with a touch of deep thought. This man was really not simple. In just a few words he resolved the matter without offending either side. Chapter 84. Yi Fengru's approach seemed to be another purpose. It's alright, there's plenty of time in the future. She would eventually know Yi Fengru's purpose. Right now, the most important thing was to heal his injuries as soon as possible. Yi Qingluo gathered her thoughts and hurried towards the direction of the abandoned courtyard. Fortunately, his injuries were only superficial wounds. Yi Qingluo took out the medicine that she used to rush to the level of an alchemist. Apply what needs to be applied, eat what needs to be eaten, and drink what needs to be drunk. It would take at most 2 to 3 days for his wounds to be completely healed. What does the assessment competition that Yi Fengru mentioned mean? Yi Qingluo, who was sitting on the bedside, scooped up a spoonful of medicinal soup and sent it to his lips. She had lived for 2 lifetimes and this was the first time she took care of someone. Yi Fengyu was obviously a little uncomfortable as well. He shyly drank the medicinal soup in his spoon and said, "It's the class assignment test. Class allocation assessment?" Yi Qingluo searched her memory. The Heavenly Academy, she had some impression of it. The Heavenly Academy was the best school in the Nirvana realm. It was personally selected by the royal family of the 4 continents as the best school. Countless cultivators had racked their brains to enter the Heavenly Academy. This was not only a place to learn and cultivate profound qi, but also a symbol of status. Because those who graduated from the Heavenly Academy would basically have a place in the Nirvana realm. There had never been any cultivator who failed to make a name for himself. The premise of achieving 0 mistakes was that the Heavenly Academy's admission conditions were too strict. To enter the Heavenly Academy, one had to pass the top 10 assessments. From the comprehensive results of strength, intelligence, ability, potential and other major factors to determine whether one could enter the Heavenly Academy. A person only had 3 chances to take the assessment in his lifetime. Yi Fengyu had always been studying in an ordinary school. The Heavenly Academy was the place he yearned for. After getting the Peerless Immortal Pill from Yi Qingluo, his profound jade heart had been upgraded along with his profound qi. Under Yi Qingluo's influence from time to time, Yi Fengyu's state of mind had long changed. With this promotion there was a huge breakthrough in his strength. He took advantage of the excitement and directly applied for the admission assessment of the Heavenly Academy. He received the admission notice yesterday and actually passed the assessment. It's good that you passed. Yi Qingluo saw her brother's eyes lit up at the mention of the Heavenly Academy. The anger in her heart had almost dissipated. Ability assessment, don't be too stubborn, even if you are allocated to the low profound class, it's alright. The Heavenly Academy divided all the students into 4 classes according to their profound grade, potential and other comprehensive data. The low profound class was a class for cultivators with low profound levels and low potential. Intermediate profound class, it was a class for those with average profound levels, average potential but overall strength should be above average. The high profound class was a class for cultivators who were outstanding in all aspects. And the last class was the most mysterious class in the Heavenly Academy. It was called the Class of Gods. It was said that the students in that class were either geniuses or freaks. No one knew how many people were in that class or who they were. Who was in the Class of Gods had nothing to do with her. If Yi Fengyu could enter the intermediate profound class, it would already be amazing. Chapter 85. Me to enter the Heavenly Academy? Yi Qingluo squinted her eyes. This proposal could be considered. After all, she was in a different world. Although she had Old Man Song by her side, most of the time she was self-taught. A little carelessness could easily lead to qi deviation. If there was a professional master to guide her, it would be much better than learning by herself. But her profound jade heart must be tied to DMO Xian. If she wanted to go to the Heavenly Academy, DMO Xian had to follow. Otherwise, if she entered the Heavenly Academy, once the profound jade heart left the mother's power supply for more than a month, it would be easy to be suspected by other students. If others knew that her profound jade heart was just a temporary formation, she was afraid that there would be trouble. What's more, if DMO Xian followed her to the Heavenly Academy, it would set off a storm in the entire Heavenly Academy. Thinking of this, Yi Qingluo shook her head. Even if I go to the academy, I can't be in the same class as you. You are a man, if you want to protect me, you have to become stronger first. You can't always think of me by your side. I just don't want the people in the family to look down on you. Yi Fengyu pursed his lips and lowered his head slightly. Yi Qingluo's heart trembled and suddenly understood something. Entering the Heavenly Academy represented a symbol of status. If she was admitted into the Heavenly Academy, it would also prove her strength. At least in the Yi family she would have a place for herself. At least, no one would dare to call Yi Qingluo waste anymore. Otherwise, It would be questioning the Heavenly Academy's vision and questioning the Heavenly Academy's teaching standards. Silly child. The smile in Yiqing Luo's eyes gradually softened as she raised her hand and touched Yi Fengyu's head. As long as the people you care about look up to you, I don't care about others. She didn't care about those unimportant people's opinion of her. She was not a coin, she couldn't make everyone love her. Of course, she didn't need everyone to love her. Seeing that Yiqing Luo had no intention to enter the Heavenly Academy, he had to give up. After drinking the medicinal soup, sleepiness hit and he fell into a deep sleep. Yiqing Luo let Ziling take care of him while she went to another room and prepared to enter the Azure Dew bracelet to study the teleportation technique. Just as she closed the door, Yiqing Luo's expression suddenly froze. A cold glint flashed across his calm eyes. Immediately after, his body swayed and in a strange posture, he rolled on the ground and rolled under the table. Yiqing Luo quickly raised her eyes and saw a pair of purple-patterned boots with unique embroidery outside the table. "Luo, you run as soon as you see me. Am I that scary?" A chilly voice, like the sound of a clear spring, cleansed his heart. There was even a hint of a smile in that voice. Yiqing Luo's face darkened instantly. *CK. Was Diamo Xian. She knew it. How was it possible for someone to appear in her abandoned courtyard without anyone noticing under the range of her senses? Other than the abnormal Diamo Xian who was beyond her imagination, who else could it be? "You come and go like a ghost, can't you at least give me a greeting?" Yiqing Luo abruptly lifted the table. Her petite body stood ramrod straight as she raised her little face and stared fiercely at him. "Luo's vigilance is so strong, I haven't had time to greet you." Diamo Xian's face was full of smiles, slightly curved narrow eyes, sparkling with charm. When a normal person entered the house, they would feel a strong aura rushing towards them and would instinctively avoid it. Or, was this the Overlord's unique way of greeting? Chapter 86. Yiqing Luo's pupils constricted slightly. "You don't have to be so vigilant in front of me." These words were like a stone, splashing a ripple in her heart that was as calm as still water. Since young, she had been designated as the future head of the family. And those sanctimonious elders were thinking of ways to take her life. To survive, she had to make herself strong. If she wanted to survive, she had to be alert every day. Even in her dreams, the slightest sound would wake her up. Even if she had become strong enough and stood in the position of the head of the family, in charge of the entire hidden family, her strong perception had become a habit. No one could make her let down her guard. "As long as I am here, no one will hurt you and there will be no danger." Diamo Xian's smile was so wild and confident. Yes, he was the overlord that everyone respected. No one in the world could match him. Indeed, he had the capital to be wild and confident. It was true that there was no danger by his side. If he wanted to protect her, no one could hurt her. But, Yiqing Luo raised that pair of bewitching eyes, but the bottom of her eyes was clear. Her cherry-colored lips moved slightly. "No, you will not be by my side forever. I, Yiqing Luo, do not need anyone's protection. The reason why you are standing in front of me now is because I have something that you need. Not taking it is just because the time is not right. Once the time is right, you will not hesitate to kill me, won't you?" The cold voice stated the truth word by word. Yiqing Luo wasn't a fool, she wouldn't be so silly to put her trust in a man whom she didn't know at all. Diamo Xian was too powerful, too mysterious, he was not a man she could control. Once the thing he wanted was taken away, once she was of no use to him, Diamo Xian would not hesitate to kill her. The atmosphere was silent for as long as half an incense stick. Diamo Xian was slightly stunned and suddenly burst into a low laugh. His slender fingers pressed against his fair forehead and shook his head. He smiled helplessly and dotingly. "Luo, you really are a wonderful person." These were indeed his initial thoughts when he first met her. But now, this little girl was very interesting. It would be a pity to kill her. If there's nothing else, go back to where you came from and don't disturb my cultivation. Yiqing Luo finished her words and waved her hand as if she was waving a fly. Then he walked directly towards the bed. Gazing at Yiqing Luo's back view, Diamo Xian's deep and serene eyes gleamed. After a while, his thin lips curled upwards as his long legs strode towards Yiqing Luo, until it stopped beside the bed. Yiqing Luo had just placed her legs on the bed and had yet to lie down when she saw a figure standing by the bedside. She looked up at him. "Sir, is there anything else?" Diamo Xian shook his head, his jet black hair fluttering in the wind as it cascaded down from his shoulders, further accentuating that peerless face of his, captivating one's soul. A wisp of it landed on Yi Qingluo's arm. She waved it away, raised her arm and pointed at the door. Turn left and walk 10 steps ahead. I won't be seeing you out. Just as she finished speaking, her outstretched arm was grabbed by a white hand. With a stretch of his long arm, the woman's soft body was pulled into the man's broad embrace. Chapter 87. Yi Qingluo's mind was in a mess. Invite my ass. Yi Qingluo flipped her hand and threw a slap at Dmo Xian's face. Her hand was just raised when it was caught by Dmo Xian. Both her hands were easily held by Dmo Xian just like that. Yi Qingluo gritted her teeth in anger, but her body was pressed by the man and she could only glare at him fiercely. Ah Luo. Dmo Xian's long and narrow eyes narrowed slightly, revealing a bit of demonic luster. He called her name in an exceptionally deep and husky voice. Then, his peerlessly handsome face came into contact with hers. Their foreheads touched, their eyes met, and the tips of their noses touched. His warm breath sprayed on Yi Qingluo's face. His dark red thin lips were slightly hooked. At such a close distance, there was a fluffy luster as if tempting to pluck it. Yi Qingluo inexplicably thought of the kiss with Dmo Xian. That was her first kiss. Her nose was filled with the man's elegant sandalwood scent. Vaguely, she seemed to feel the soft touch of the man's lips. Damn. This evildoer was really an evildoer. This was too brainwashing. Yi Qingluo couldn't wait to give herself 2 slaps. It's not like she had never seen a handsome guy. Was it necessary to look at Dmo Xian like a love-struck fool? Love-struck fool my ass. I saw it in your eyes. Dmo Xian's voice was lower and deeper, like mellow wine, intoxicating. Your infatuation for me? Infatuation your sister. Yi Qingluo couldn't help but burst out vulgarities. Damn it. She originally wanted to be a happy lady, but met this evildoer, she was forced to become a shrew. The smile on Dmo Xian's lips gradually deepened. Wind, who was in the dark, saw the situation in the room. His cold and stiff face twitched a few times. He turned around stiffly, no longer looking at his own overlord who had long lost his moral integrity. He sighed helplessly. It's okay. Whatever the overlord does, he has his reasons. As long as the overlord is happy, it's okay. Inside the house. Yi Qingluo was pinned down for a while before her face turned cold. How long do you want to maintain this position? Dmo Xian raised his brows slightly. If you want, you can maintain it for as long as you want. I don't want it at all. Yi Qingluo gritted her teeth word by word. Let me go. Dmo Xian chuckled lowly, not letting go. What would happen if a shameless person met an even more shameless person? Answer, there's no solution. Damn it. Overlord, I'm still an unmarried virgin. You snuck into my room, hugged me and touched me. Do you want to marry me? Yi Qingluo's charming eyes were filled with a sliver of fury, as she simply smashed the broken jar. She didn't believe that this wouldn't scare him. However, Yi Qingluo had underestimated Dmo Xian's shamelessness. After hearing Yi Qingluo's words, the smile on his lips widened. His slender fingers tightened their grip on her jaw. A strand of long black hair fell on her face. If you dare to marry, I dare to marry. His dark eyes squinted slightly, revealing extreme laziness. From his eyes, Yi Qingluo could tell. He was not joking. Dared to marry, he dared to marry? Her heart seemed to be provoked. Yi Qingluo raised her little face, arrogantly squinted at Dmo Xian, and said domineeringly, If you dare to marry, I dare to marry. Chapter 88. Domineering words and undisguised arrogant expression. Dmo Xian's eyes were filled with interest. These days he had learned about all the deeds that Yi Qingluo had done from Guardian Feng. These 2 days he had been observing secretly. He had some understanding of Yi Qingluo's character. Vengeful, ruthless and decisive. She seemed indifferent and heartless, but when it comes to the people she cared about, she would use her own way to help the other party. Especially that pair of eyes, charming, cold and arrogant, deeply attracted his attention. This woman was different from ordinary women. There was a feeling that was extremely similar to him. A decision was formed in his heart. Come to think of it, in the future he would not be lonely. I will remember your words. Dmo Xian loosened the restraint on Yi Qingluo and slowly straightened up. His fingers circled around his chest. In the future I will come back to fulfill the promise between us today. Promise? What nonsense promise? Did he really treat what he said earlier as a verbal agreement between both parties? Hey. Did he misunderstand something? She was about to open her mouth to clarify that what she said earlier was absolutely not a promise. But she saw Diamo Xian sitting by the bed with a serious face. Your brother's suggestion can actually be considered. The topic changed and Yiqing Luo didn't want to repeat the issue of marriage. Otherwise, Diamo Xian would think that she was crazy for marrying. Yiqing Luo also put on a serious expression, raised her eyebrows and asked, "Admitted to the Heavenly Academy?" Diamo Xian actually suggested her to enter the Heavenly Academy? Entering the Heavenly Academy is a good start for you. Diamo Xian nodded slightly. Although his attitude was lazy, but the words that came out of his mouth were worth considering. The reason why the Heavenly Academy is famous in the Nirvana realm is not only because of the school's strict enrollment, but more importantly, their strict teaching. You just started cultivating profound chi, your profound grade is not stable. If there is no master to guide you, you will easily go astray. The Heavenly Academy can help you to stabilize your own foundation. These thoughts were exactly the same as Yiqing Luo's thoughts. Whether it was cultivation or anything else, the foundation was the most important. As long as he had a solid foundation, he would be invincible. Luo, I've settled the matters in the Imperial Palace. I'll accompany you to the Heavenly Academy. Diamo Xian's lips curled into a smile as he leaned back. That pair of long, narrow, and devilishly charming black eyes glowed with rippling light. You want to tag along? Yiqing Luo frowned. Without thinking, she directly rejected, "No, you can't go." Who was Diamo Xian? The legend of the Nirvana realm. If he went to the Heavenly Academy, wouldn't the Academy be in a mess? How could he happily learn the method of cultivating chi? I'll be in the dark. Diamo Xian suddenly leaned forward and his jet black eyes coincidentally met with Mu Ran's line of sight. Won't cause you any trouble. Get straight to the point, what's your motive? Yiqing Luo didn't shift her gaze away as she looked straight into his eyes. Then she blinked her charming eyes, which were clear and cold. In your eyes, whatever I do, I have ulterior motives? Diamo Xian's eyes darkened as his slender fingers stretched forward. Yiqing Luo thought that he wanted to hook her chin again and quickly retreated. But unexpectedly, the back of her head coincidentally bumped into Diamo Xian's palm. He retracted his long arm and Yiqing Luo's entire body was pressed to the front of her chest by his huge palm. Chapter 89. The strong and powerful heartbeat was extremely rhythmic. The rich masculine scent and elegant sandalwood scent assailed her nostrils. This sandalwood scent, this body temperature, it was really captivating and intoxicating. To be honest, Yiqing Luo was stunned for a moment. This man always flirted with her when she wasn't paying attention. His actions had also activated the coolness and craziness of pulling down the sky. If Diamo Xian claimed to be the second best at flirting, no one would dare to claim to be the best. Luo, just as Diamo Xian called out her name in a husky and magnetic voice. Yiqing Luo suddenly pushed him away and raised her head. Yes, I heard you. Diamo Xian's brows relaxed a little as the corners of his eyes rose slightly. Yiqing Luo continued, I heard you, you do have other motives. She looked at Diamo Xian in silence. After a while, her charming eyes floated a pinch of crushed ice, glinting coldly. I'm not like those ladies in the boudoir, I'm not that stupid. Yiqing Luo stated her own views unhurriedly. The number one person in the Nirvana realm, the legendary overlord, fell in love at first sight with me, a famous waste from Three Springs sect, and wanted to marry me and so on. I've never thought about it. I'm not that arrogant nor that narcissistic. To make the dignified overlord willing to sacrifice his beauty to lure me into the trap. I guess there must be a reason for the overlord to go to the Heavenly Academy. After Yiqing Luo finished, her charming eyes lifted lazily and glanced at Diamo Xian. Not a word. As if waiting for Diamo Xian's answer. However, Diamo Xian did not speak. His lips hooked into a smile. That smile did not reach the bottom of his eyes. It was so cold that it sent chills down one's spine and made one tremble. Inexplicably, Yiqing Luo felt flustered. She opened her mouth and wanted to say something, but when the words came to her mouth, they were shocked by that pair of black eyes and she could not spit out a word. That pair of eyes had no emotions. However, everyone could clearly feel the chill that came from his bones. With a flick of his sleeve, the man let go of her head and turned towards the door. Diamo. Her voice had yet to leave her throat. The purple figure had only taken a few steps before disappearing into the air. Not a trace of him could be seen. Yiqing Luo slid down the bed and searched around the house a few times. She specially used her perception to carefully sense the entire range of the abandoned courtyard. There was no sign of Diemo. He left. Just like when he came, he was ethereal and silent. Yiqing Luo pursed her pink lips tightly and returned to the bedside resentfully as she leaned against the headboard weakly and sat down. She knew that Diemo was furious. And he was very, very angry. Her doubts and distrust had agitated Diemo. She did not know where Diemo had gone to this time. Would he appear again? If Diemo did not appear on his own accord, even if she searched the entire Nirvana realm, she might not be able to find Diemo. The only thing he could do was to wait for him to calm down before he took the initiative to appear. But Yiqing Luo didn't regret her decision. She had never put her back in someone else's hands. She had never been forced to hand over the person behind her. The relationship between Diemo and her was at most that of the profound heart Jade's mother and individual. Other than that, they could only be considered as strangers. She did not believe Diemo and doubted him, which was a normal thing. She was not targeting Diemo, but she would not trust anyone. Forget it, Diemo had left, so be it. She flipped her hand and a small kitten the size of 2 palms suddenly appeared in her palm. With a leap, it pounced into Yiqing Luo's arms. Chapter 90. On the 3rd day after Diemo left, Yiqing Luo brought Chi out of the azure dew bracelet. The room was silent. Yiqing Luo got off the bed and subconsciously looked at the place where Diemo stood. It was empty, no one was there. There wasn't his unique sandalwood scent in the air. He hadn't come back for the past few days. Perhaps it was because Diemo was angered by her. Yiqing Luo felt an inexplicable sense of guilt. What kind of weird feeling was this? This was the first time she had such a feeling. Could it be that what she said that day was too much? It seemed it was indeed too much. Yiqing Luo started self-reflection. After all, the other party was the noble overlord. He was willing to lower himself to be by your side. You should be satisfied. Why bother asking the other party's purpose? Maybe the overlord was just bored and didn't have a purpose at all? After self-reflection, Yiqing Luo pursed her lips. She suddenly remembered that Diemo had arranged a spy by her side. That black-robed youngster called Wind. Why not ask him? If Wind was there, it meant that Diemo was just sulking and would come back after his anger subsided. If Wind wasn't there, that meant Diemo planned to never appear in front of her again. If Diemo didn't appear, it meant that the temporary profound jade heart in her body could only last for another month. Yiqing Luo exhaled a mouthful of impure air and placed her palm on her chest, feeling the profound qi lingering around the profound jade heart. She really hated the feeling of putting her fate on someone else's hands. She must find her profound jade heart as soon as possible. Otherwise, she could only rely on other people's strength to live. She didn't realize that she, who had always been indifferent to anything and any strangers, would actually waste time to ponder over a man's heart. Yiqing Luo cleared her throat and called out in a probing manner, "Wind?" Her line of sight surveyed the surroundings. There was no sound. Yiqing Luo spread out her perception and once again probed for an unfamiliar presence. "Wind, there's something about Diemo that I want to talk to you about." She had just spat out the 3 words Diemo when a whirlwind suddenly blew in the room. The wind stopped. A young man dressed in black stood at the door. His face was cold and emotionless. "What is it?" Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes. Sure enough, Diemo follower was still around. As expected of one of Lord Dizun's subordinates. His ability to conceal his aura was truly impressive. She couldn't sense Ah Feng's aura at all, even though Ah Feng was standing right in front of her. Wind should be Diemo secret guard. "I'm fine now." Yiqing Luo collected her thoughts, smiled and shook her head. Since it was confirmed that Wind was still monitoring her in the dark, that proved that Diemo would appear again. It looked like there was something on her that attracted Diemo and he was determined to get it. Wind frowned as his face was filled with disgust. "Yiqing Luo, don't go too far. If the Overlord wants to kill you, it's just a matter of moving his fingers. Do you really think His Majesty wants something from you?" Yiqing Luo was slightly stunned. Just as she was about to reply, Wind turned into a whirlwind and disappeared in front of Yiqing Luo. As though he didn't want to be alone with Yiqing Luo for even a second. Yiqing Luo didn't care about Wind's departure. His heart was rippling with ripples. That's right. Chapter 91. She had always suspected Diemo purpose in getting close to her. Well, she had decided. When Diemo returned, she would apologize to him. Yiqing Luo pushed the door and walked out of the room. She had just stepped out of the door when she heard Ziling's voice. Miss, you are finally awake." Yiqing Luo looked over. Ziling was standing in front of the next door with her arms wide open, her face flushed red. "Eighth young master Ling will never give in before Miss agrees." Yi Fengyu's handsome face frowned. "Ling move aside. If I can't make it for the ability assessment, I will be expelled from the Heavenly Academy." "Your leg is not healed yet, Ling, cannot move aside." Ziling said stubbornly. She remembered Yiqing Luo's instructions and was determined not to let him leave the room. After listening for a while, Yiqing Luo finally understood. Today was the day of the Heavenly Academy's ability assessment. The ability assessment and which class they would be assigned to was a crucial moment for the students who were admitted into the Heavenly Academy, because it would determine their fate. No wonder Yi Fengyu had to participate in the ability assessment even though his leg was not fully healed. Yiqing Luo waved her hand and Ziling stepped aside. She walked over and stared at Yi Fengyu with a pair of clear eyes. Yi Fengyu's scalp went numb and lowered his eyes. Sister, want to participate in the assessment?" Yiqing Luo asked lightly. Yi Fengyu looked up in panic but was frightened by Yiqing Luo's gaze and immediately lowered his head. He bit his lower lip and looked hesitant. After a while, an inaudible voice overflowed from his lips. "Yes." "What?" Yiqing Luo's voice was still very calm, no extra emotions could be heard. Yi Fengyu bit his lower lip even harder, almost bleeding. His hands were clenched into fists, trembling slightly. Immediately he took a deep breath and looked up again, no longer flinching. He fixed his eyes on Yiqing Luo's and said word by word, "I want to prove my strength, I want to enter the high profound class, I want to stand firm in the Heavenly Academy." Yes, the Heavenly Academy was the place he had always yearned for. "I want to become stronger, I want to protect my sister. Heavenly Academy is the only way for me to become stronger. Are you confident?" Yiqing Luo's lips curled up into an extremely shallow arc, the ripples in her eyes softened a little. Yi Fengyu nodded vigorously. "All right, I believe you." Yiqing Luo raised her hand and rubbed Yi Fengyu's head. "The path of the strong needs to be walked step by step. Once you step on this path, you are destined to have no way out. On this path no one will help you. You will have to rely on yourself to persevere. Have you thought this through?" Yi Fengyu nodded again. Yiqing Luo smiled, a satisfied smile. She could see Yi Fengyu's potential. She used the most suitable method for Yi Fengyu to stimulate his fighting spirit. Presumably, it wouldn't be long before the Three Springs sect would produce another astounding Xian practitioner. Yiqing Luo half squatted down and touched her brother's knee with her fingers. As soon as she touched his skin, she felt his muscles stiffen and his legs tremble. The injury was more serious than he had imagined. After recuperating for 3 days, he still hadn't recovered. Yiqing Luo rummaged through the profound phoenix ring and took out a white jade bottle. "Take one and it will temporarily seal your pain. But after the effect is over, I'm afraid your leg will suffer 10 times the pain." Chapter 92. Yiqing Luo rebandaged her brother's knee as fast as she could. "Don't think you can mess around just because you're not afraid of pain. You have to pay more attention to yourself. If you want to become stronger and protect me, the most important thing is to ensure your own safety." Yiqing Luo muttered as she knocked on his knee. "Especially these 2 legs, be more aware if you don't want to be crippled." After estimating the time, the 3 of them immediately rushed to the Heavenly Academy. The Heavenly Academy was indeed worthy of being the best academy. The test plaza was bustling with activity, and not even a drop of water could trickle through. As far as the eye could see, it was full of heads without any gaps. Yi Fengyu took the admission form to register for the ability assessment. Yiqing Luo and Ziling stayed in a corner. Every time the Heavenly Academy recruits new students, the Three Springs Square is always the most lively. Ziling's big eyes were shining as she looked around. Since Ziling entered the Heavenly Academy, she had been taking care of Yiqing Luo in the Heavenly Academy. Due to her leg's inconvenience, she had never left the Heavenly Academy. This time, it was an extremely novel thing for her to leave the Heavenly Academy. However, even without stepping out of the Three Springs sect, Ziling knew a lot of news outside. "Miss, do you think 8th young master can pass the assessment? I heard that the Heavenly Academy's assessment is particularly abnormal. If he can't pass, the Heavenly Academy will directly announce his results in public regardless of who he is." This was considered a kind of humiliation. What kind of blow would it be to the students who participated in the assessment to announce the results in public? The only thing we can do now is to believe in him. Yiqing Luo smiled faintly. From the moment Yi Fengyu stepped into the square, it had already foreshadowed that this road could only be walked by himself. Yiqing Luo didn't think that she had the ability to help him in front of the Heavenly Academy's many referees and elders. Moreover, with her current strength it would be difficult to help him. So the only thing she could do was to believe and wait. Miss? Look, it's the two young masters from the Mu family. They actually came to the Heavenly Academy. Ziling cried out in surprise as she pulled Yiqing Luo's sleeve and pointed to the side. The surrounding people also saw the figures of the Mu brothers, and they were all astonished. Damn. Are we dreaming? Mu Zifan and Mu Zifei are here too? Are they here to participate in the ability test or to take a stroll? They must be here for the ability assessment. I've participated in the enrollment every 6 months. It's been 3 times that I haven't seen the Mu brothers. There were bursts of exclamations and envious voices around. Mu family? Yiqing Luo heard the keyword and her brows rose as she followed everyone's line of sight. Mu Zifan walked at the front. His blue robe made his temperament even more outstanding. He gently waved the folding fan in his hand, a warm but distant smile on his face. Mu Zifei followed closely behind, greeting the surrounding people from time to time. Mu Ziqing Mu Zishao and Luo Mu as he as possible. Mu Yiqing Luo's look. Mu Yao Xiao Mu Desai. Qing Luo as you. As Feng is. As she said that as she could. Mu Zi Mu He Luo. Master. I can You can. I am I. Luo? It was said that maids follow their masters. Don't let the Mu brothers see Ziling's infatuated look. Otherwise, it would be misunderstood that she was infatuated with the Mu brothers. Chapter 93. Miss, the 2 young masters from the Mu family seem to be walking towards us. Ziling wanted to focus her attention on Yi Fengyu, but one of the Mu brothers was gentle and elegant like the wind, the other was handsome and incomparably amiable. 2 good-looking men walked directly towards him. How could an ordinary girl move her eyes away? Not only was Ziling unable to maintain her composure, the girls around Yiqing Luo were also panting and screaming with excitement. This momentum was comparable to a celebrity meeting with his fans. The assessment square was oval in shape. The viewing area for all forces also circled around the square. The 3 Springs sect's area of influence was located on the right-hand side of the main stage. And on the left-hand side of the main stage was the royal family area. These were the symbol of status, the 2 most distinguished positions. At this time in the 3 Springs sect area, Yiqing Ling stared fiercely at the audience area opposite. Elder sister, that little slut Yiqing Luo is also here. Yiqing Qian sat elegantly on one side, hearing her sister's words, she covered her mouth and chuckled lightly. Yi Fengyu is also admitted into the Heavenly Academy, don't worry. The implication was that Yiqing Luo was only accompanying Yi Fengyu and would not participate in the assessment to confront her. When I see her I can't take it anymore. Yiqing Ling bit her lower lip. The injury and pain from the last time she was tortured by Yiqing Luo had yet to recover. On the 2nd day of recuperation, she received the admission letter from the Heavenly Academy. This was the only chance for her to climb back up in the Yi family. Yiqing Ling gritted her teeth and endured the pain to participate in the ability assessment. Yiqing Ling blamed Yiqing Luo for the pain of participating in the competition. If it wasn't for Yiqing Luo, she would definitely be able to smoothly enter the Heavenly Academy with her profound grade. Don't make trouble at the crucial moment. Since I have promised to let you enter the high profound class smoothly, I will definitely do it. Yiqing Qian pinched her sister's little hand, a touch of determination flashed across her eyes. You work hard and do your best to the 2 young masters of the Mu family, don't let daddy down. Ever since Yi Tianquang had completely fallen out with the Yuqi family under Yiqing Luo's scheme, he went looking for the Mu family. Because the Mu family's 2 young masters had beaten up Wuxia at the pristine elixir medicine store, they didn't even feel like maintaining a peaceful relationship with the Yuqi family on the surface. Naturally, they were closer to the 3 Springs sect. Yi Tianquang also seized the opportunity and set his sights on the 2 unmarried young masters of the Mu family. Yiqing Ling's little face finally revealed a smile. Since young, there was nothing that Big Sister couldn't do. Since Big Sister had spoken, she absolutely believed in Big Sister. Furthermore, the 2 young masters of the Mu family, at the thought of the 2 handsome and refined young masters, Yiqing Ling shyly lowered her eyes. I know, eldest sister, She had asked around and found out that the Mu brothers were in the high profound class. As long as she could successfully enter the high profound class, she could use the excuse of being family friends to get close to them. Wasn't everything like water gathering? But the Mu brothers were both so handsome and both of them were very strong. They were on par with each other. Who should she choose to be her husband? Yi Qingling thought happily in her heart. However, this was just the beginning of this beautiful dream. Yi Qingling's gaze suddenly fixated on a certain place and immediately her whole body trembled with anger. Eldest sister. In the audience area opposite, the Mu brothers stopped in front of Yi Qingluo. The three of them seemed to be talking about something and Yi Qingluo's smile was extremely alluring. Chapter 94. Long time no see, 7th Mississippi. Mu Zifan greeted her warmly. Yi Qingluo nodded with a smile. I told you to come to the assessment square today. Look, I met 7th Miss. Sure enough, this is fate. Mu Zifei put his hand on Mu Zifan's shoulder, popped out his head and smiled in surprise. 7th Miss wants to enter the Heavenly Academy? Mu Zifan asked warmly with a modest smile on his face. Accompany Xiao Yu to participate in the assessment. Yi Qingluo shook her head and glanced at her brother who had already received his number and was standing in the waiting area waving at her. 7th Miss is such a capable person. Why not enter the Heavenly Academy? Mu Zifan shook his head with a look of pity. With 7th Miss ability, entering the high profound class should not be a problem. Yi Qingluo only smiled faintly and did not respond. In her heart there was a bit of relief. Previously she refused to enter the Heavenly Academy because she considered that her profound jade heart was bound to Dmo Xian. After that, Dmo Xian took the initiative to let her enter the Heavenly Academy, and he was so angry that he ran away. If she was admitted into the Heavenly Academy, would Dmo Xian's anger be appeased? This thought flashed through Yi Qingluo's mind. She shook her head repeatedly and secretly spat a few times in her heart. Why did she care so much about whether Dmo Xian was angry or not? 7th Miss, are you possessed? Mu Zifei looked at Yi Qingluo strangely. Seeing her suddenly frowning and suddenly shaking her head, he could not help but laugh. Yi Qingluo sobered up from her thoughts, pursed her pink lips and rolled her eyes. When does the assessment end? The assessment period of the Heavenly Academy was half a month. The first 10 days was the time for the assessment. 3 days after receiving the admission form, you must go to the Heavenly Academy for the ability assessment to facilitate the class allocation. Today at midnight. Mu Zifan raised his eyebrows slightly, his eyes lit up and revealed a smile. Is 7th Miss ready to participate in the assessment? The last day of the assessment? Yi Qingluo's slender brows creased slightly. She was still thinking of asking Win to contact Dmo Xian after they returned, to probe for his reaction. Otherwise, if she entered the Heavenly Academy and Dmo Xian still sulked and refused to appear, wouldn't she be embarrassed? In this way we're students from the same academy. Mu Zifei didn't notice Yi Qingluo's change and happily clapped his hands. He hooked his arm over Yi Qingluo's shoulder like a good brother. Let my brother write a recommendation letter for you to guarantee that you won't have any pressure to enter the hospital. With Miss Seven's strength, she doesn't even need a recommendation letter to be admitted into the academy. Mu Zifan pulled Mu Zifei's ear and pulled him behind him. Also, no matter how valiant 7th Miss is, she's still a woman. Flirting in public, do you want to ruin 7th Miss' clean reputation? Mu Zifei covered his ears, howling in pain. If it's ruined, then it's ruined. At worst, I'll marry her. Yi Qingluo's mouth twitched. Was she really that tough? Is he as tough as a man? However, to be able to joke around like this, it was enough to prove that they truly treated her as a friend. She chuckled and rolled her eyes at him. Even if you want to marry me, I'm not willing to marry you. The moment she finished speaking, a low and husky magnetic voice seemed to ring beside her ear again. It was as if it could take away one's soul as it softly said, "If you dare to marry, I will dare to marry." Her pupils suddenly constricted. For a moment, her heart skipped a few beats. That damn evildoer seemed to have really brainwashed her. How could she always inadvertently think of him? Chapter 95. Mu Zifan squinted his eyes and tapped his palm with his folding fan. 8th young master is indeed injured. Judging from his walking posture, he must have injured his knees. Yi Qingluo nodded slightly. She bandaged his knee wound and it was inconvenient for him to walk with the bandage wrapped around his legs. Mu Zifan could see that. What about the others? If someone saw that Yi Fengyu's legs were injured and deliberately attacked his knees, although he could not feel the pain now, it was because he could not feel the pain that he could easily mess around. Once the effect of the drug wore off, his legs would probably be crippled. Facts had proven that it was not Yi Luo who measured the heart of a gentleman with her own mean measure. The ability assessment was conducted in the most primitive way, arena battle. The contestants were grouped according to the comprehensive strength of the admission assessment. Those with similar strength or qualifications were put into a group to battle. Then 3 prestigious masters on the main stage would raise their placards to pass and be eliminated. And those who were eliminated would have one chance to challenge the students who passed the assessment. Of course, the students also had the right to refuse. If the challenge was successful, they would be admitted into the academy. The challenged would then be transferred to the next group to challenge others, until the students lost the challenge qualification. This kind of harsh challenge could indeed stimulate the potential ability of the cultivator and thus select the best students. No wonder the Heavenly Academy was able to remain as the top school for a long time. Cough cough. Yi Luo always felt that. It was like watching a monkey show. With the sound of the gong, the headmaster of the academy announced the start of the test. All the students who received the registration form walked from the waiting area to the middle of the square. Around the square, 4 masters leaped at the same time. Everyone looked up and saw a palm-sized pyramid shooting out a golden light in the middle of the 4 masters. The students on the square disappeared in the blink of an eye. Soon after, the pyramid suddenly enlarged and with a bang, it heavily smashed into the ground. This was the treasure of the Heavenly Academy, Heavenly Pagoda. The Heavenly Pagoda could split into multiple spaces according to the user's thoughts and could accommodate any living creatures within the 6 realms. The admission assessment and ability assessment were conducted in different spaces inside the Heavenly Pagoda. The Heavenly Academy was very business-minded. If the onlookers wanted to know about the test in the pagoda, they would have to buy mysterious stones from the headmaster before the test. 1 upper profound stone required 1 silver coin to purchase. By injecting profound energy into the upper profound stone, one's divine sense would follow the guidance and enter the void space to watch the students' competition. It was Yi Luo and Ziling's first time participating, so they didn't know about the upper profound stone. At this moment he could only stare at the pagoda and watch as the students were eliminated one by one. Yi Luo was hesitating whether to take out some money from the profound phoenix ring and let Ziling buy some profound stones. She was very worried about Yi Fengyu's condition. Suddenly, a bag of upper profound stones swayed in front of his eyes. 7th young lady, this is for you. Mu Zifan smiled slightly. Yi Luo was slightly startled as she was concerned about Yi Fengyu's condition. She didn't stand on ceremony and accepted it. Thank you. Mu Zifan smiled elegantly. 8th young master's number is 302. Yi Luo nodded and took out a piece of upper profound stone from the bag. After injecting profound energy into it, her divine sense was sent to the entrance of 302. Yi Luo casually stepped into the entrance and what greeted her was an extremely strong profound qi, covering the sky and covering the earth. It seemed that the 2 sides had already started fighting. Chapter 96. In the Heavenly Pagoda, the spectators who used their profound stones to enter could personally feel the battle in the arena. The spectators could feel the examinee's profound grade, profound qi, and could hear their conversation. But the examinee was in an independent space. Their profound qi could not hurt the spectators. They could not hear the audience's words. Just like Yi Luo, her profound qi was flying all over the sky. Several waves of it went straight towards her face, but it passed through her body. Right now she was just a trace of consciousness. In the space there was a huge arena. Yi Luo stood under the arena. The spectators were in the same space, so Yi Luo could clearly see that there were 2 figures standing next to her. She didn't know whether it was fate making a fool out of people or enemies on a narrow road. Yi Fengyu's first opponent was Yi Ling. His and Yi Ling's comprehensive assessment results were similar, so they were divided into the same group. And the spectators under the arena were Yi Qian and Lung Fenghua. Seeing Yi Luo coming in, Lung Fenghua's face revealed a bit of astonishment, followed by a flash of embarrassment. Recently he had been neglected by Yi Luo, which really hurt his self-esteem as a crown prince. And Yi Qian's frequent flattery and charming appearance made him regain his confidence as a man. And he was entangled with Yi Qian again. But at this time, Lung Fenghua's heart was always on Yi Luo's side. He was about to explain to Yi Luo awkwardly. Before he could finish his words, Yiqing Luo had already shifted her gaze to the arena. Her expression was indifferent, there was no fluctuation in her expression, there was no anger at seeing her fiancé with another woman. It was as if she had seen an insignificant person. Lung Fenghua's heart was ruthlessly stabbed. Eighth brother, you've been a waste for so many years, why not continue to be a waste? Why must you fight with fourth sister for the opportunity to enter the academy? Yiqing Ling's eyes were full of ruthlessness as she said each word through gritted teeth. Yifeng, you didn't have the cowardice of the past, nor did he have the hesitation and confusion of the past. His 5 fingers clenched the long sword and said, Fourth sister, I can give up anything, but the opportunity to enter the academy, forgive me, I cannot give up. Good. Very good. Since you want to die so badly, I'll fulfill your wish. Yiqing Ling's eyes turned cold as a gust of cold air gushed out from the bottom of her eyes. Immediately after, the sword in her hand flashed with a blue light. In its place was a long sword shrouded in yin qi. Yiqing Ling leaped up and a strong airflow was released from the long sword. A cold and sinister aura quickly enveloped the entire arena. The body of the sword gleamed coldly, exuding an evil aura. There was something wrong with that sword. The first time Yiqing Luo saw the long sword in Yiqing Ling's hand, she was keenly aware that the cold gleam of the long sword was too strange. The sword technique released by the long sword was imposing, as if it wanted to dismember Yi Fengyu's corpse into 10,000 pieces. His attacks were extremely ruthless, as if he was burning with anger and he was randomly slashing. When did Linger become so powerful? Lung Fenghua could not help but sigh. Lung Fenghua had done a thorough investigation on the few profound stage martial artists of the Yi clan. But he did not expect that after a period of not investigating, Yiqing Ling had made such rapid progress. Yiqing Qian held Lung Fenghua's arm and smiled gently. Fourth sister has always been intelligent, I just gave you a few pointers and you have grasped the essence. In today's ability assessment, fourth sister will definitely be shortlisted. Lung Fenghua originally felt embarrassed, but when he saw that Yiqing Luo did not even look at him, he was in a bad mood. Seeing Yiqing Qian deliberately showing affection to him, he was about to push her away, but then he thought, this Yiqing Luo was indifferent to him, wasn't she just putting on an act? If he and Yiqing Qian showed affection and aroused Yiqing Luo's jealousy. Chapter 97. It's not that Linger is smart, but your guidance is effective. Lung Fenghua smiled gently, stretched out his finger and gently hooked Yiqing Qian's nose. That doting and loving expression on his face could really deceive a few pure and innocent young ladies in the boudoir. Just like Yiqing Qian, her cheeks were blushing. She immediately thought that the flattery and gentleness she showed to Lung Fenghua these few days had made him change his mind. The smile on her face was even more gentle and coquettish. Your Highness's praise makes Qian a little embarrassed. You're always so shy. Lung Fenghua pinched her face and gently kissed her on the forehead. He deliberately glanced at Yiqing Luo. But he found that her line of sight was not looking at him at all. Yiqing Luo looked at the ring without blinking, frowning slightly as if she was thinking about something. The anger of being ignored burned Lung Fenghua's heart. At this moment, Yiqing Luo really did not have the mood to care about Lung Fenghua and Yiqing Qian, these two unimportant people. Her heart was completely focused on the arena. She was full of doubts at this moment. Her sight was fixated on Yiqing Ling without blinking. There was a treacherous look in her eyes. Because old man Song's voice rang in her mind, girl, this is bad. That fourth sister of yours has an extremely strong yin qi. Yin qi? Yiqing Luo had heard of it before, the full name was Profound Yin Qi. Cultivators who possessed Profound Yin Qi were all from the dark forces. These people hid in the dark corners of the world, cultivating secret arts that hurt themselves and others. Powerful, mysterious, ruthless. These people were the strange ones who were banished by the entire Nirvana realm. No one knew what kind of force the dark forces were. Just like the strongest palace in the Nirvana realm, the Emperor Palace, so mysterious that it made people shocked. Yiqing Ling was actually related to the people from the dark forces? It's that sword, it's from the dark forces. Old man Song's keen perception set his target on that long sword. That sword? Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes slightly. From the beginning, she felt that there was something wrong with Yiqing Ling's sword. Unexpectedly, it was from the dark forces. No wonder she could sense an extremely strong chill from the sword. This was the mysterious yin qi. No wonder she felt that Yiqing Ling's swordplay today was different from usual. No wonder Yiqing Ling was still able to stand on the stage after her profound jade heart was pierced. Yiqing Ling. He had probably already made a soul exchange with the sword and completely handed over his body to the sword to control. The source of all this was the long sword shrouded in mysterious yin qi. The doubts that had been plaguing him since he entered the arena had finally been answered. Yiqing Luo let out a sigh of relief. She had thought that Yiqing Ling was the same as her and had also formed a temporary profound jade heart to use. Who would have thought that the current Yiqing Ling was merely a shell controlled by the evil sword? Little girl, I'm afraid your brother is no match for that sword. Old man Song worriedly said, the sword itself is indestructible. It doesn't feel pain, it doesn't feel fear, and the evil sword that is filled with mysterious yin qi is even more fearless. It will only fight until the sword is broken. Yiqing Luo's pupils contracted abruptly. Her fingers clenched into a fist as her eyes turned cold. This match was not fair at all. Even if Yi Fengyu couldn't feel any pain now, he was after all a human and he had direct senses. But Yiqing Ling was just a dead object at this time. Moreover, Yi Fengyu was unable to deal a ruthless blow to Yiqing Ling. But Yiqing Ling, who was controlled by the evil sword, would not show any mercy. Chapter 98. Two figures shuttled back and forth on the ring. Rays of light shone brightly as profound qi soared to the sky. The long sword and the long saber collided with each other, and the profound qi exploded. After a few moves, Yiqing Ling became braver as she held the long sword and kept releasing profound yin qi. At this time, Yiqing Ling's crimson long dress had been tainted with yin qi. Her expression was indifferent, only her pair of eyes were full of resentment and hatred. Although Yi Fengyu had been influenced by Yiqing Luo, she was still his fourth sister. Moreover, he still had to worry about his legs. The moment their profound qi collided, Yiqing Ling's foot landed on his chest. Yi Fengyu felt as if his internal organs had been kicked out of his throat. A mouthful of blood spurted out and he fell heavily to the ground. His chest felt like it was going to explode. Below the ring, Yiqing Luo's expression changed slightly as her eyes revealed a bit of worry. Her feet subconsciously took a step forward. Yiqing Qian and Leng Fenghua, who were standing not far away, had been paying attention to Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Qian was a smart woman. She naturally felt the way Leng Fenghua looked at Yiqing Luo from time to time. Her heart was jealous, but she could not show it on her face. At this time, seeing Yiqing Luo's expression, she immediately laughed. Seventh sister, eighth brother, better admit defeat. How could he be a match for fourth sister? Just as her voice fell, a sharp gaze like a sharp knife cut straight at her. Under that pair of cold eyes, Yiqing Qian felt a chill down her spine. The Heavenly Academy is all about fairness. I think eldest sister should understand the meaning of this word. Yiqing Luo's clear voice came leisurely. Yiqing Qian's expression changed slightly but pretended to be calm. What do you mean by this? Fourth sister is representing the Three Springs sect in the battle. Do you think she would cheat? I have to ask you. Yiqing Luo turned her head and stared at Yiqing Ling, who was laughing with a sword on the ring. Her pink lips curved into a mocking arc. Fourth sister's profound heart jade has long been pierced by me. She has no ability to gather profound qi. Yiqing Qian's expression sunk completely. Let's not talk about whether or not the Yi family has the ability to repair a profound practitioner's profound heart jade. Even if they do, Lord Father would definitely not use it on fourth sister. I have my ways. Yiqing Qian clenched her fists tightly. Shortly after, she hugged Leng Fenghua's arm and her tone became gentle. The monarch has bestowed countless rare treasures to His Royal Highness. There will naturally be treasures to restore the profound heart jade. Leng Fenghua, who was called out, was stunned for a moment. He lowered his head and glanced at Yiqing Qian, not understanding what she meant. On second thoughts, this was an opportunity to flaunt his wealth in front of Yiqing Luo. He raised his head arrogantly and nodded. Is that so? The smile on Yiqing Luo's lips gradually turned treacherous and cold. Her slender and fair fingers faintly brushed past her lips. Her charming eyes flickered as she said, so, the imperial family has actually colluded with the dark forces. That long sword is covered with mysterious yin energy. Mysterious yin qi and dark forces. These 8 words made Yiqing Qian's eyes flash with a murderous intent. More than that, it was unbelievable. Flabbergasted how Yiqing Luo knew that the long sword had mysterious yin energy. How did she know that long sword was related to the dark forces? Yiqing Luo? Who exactly was she? How could she be so powerful? Yiqing Qian's emotions were in a mess. She was afraid that Yiqing Luo would complain to the Heavenly Academy. Once she did, Three Springs sect would become the joke of the entire Three Springs city. Chapter 99. Yiqing Luo saw through her sister's thoughts at a glance. She sneered, her eyes were sharp. Three Springs sect is not that important to me if Yiqing Ling hurt little you today. At this point the voice paused. Immediately she took a few steps closer to Yiqing Qian. Her charming eyes reflected a coquettish charm, making one shudder. I will definitely report to the academy that you used something from the dark forces to win. Yiqing Qian's face turned cold. Seventh sister, you misunderstood. Fourth sister is not holding anything from the dark forces, it's just a sword I borrowed from master. When Yiqing Qian was 10 years old, she was chosen by the head of the biggest sect in the Nirvana realm, 10 Views, and was brought to the sect to cultivate for 3 years. That head was Yiqing Qian's master. This statement was indeed convincing. The sword of the head of the biggest sect was naturally extraordinary. However, Yiqing Luo would not be fooled by a few words. She had old man Song in her own judgment. The long sword in Yiqing Ling's hand was definitely a profound object. Whether it's a sword or an evil sword, I think the academy will find out. Yiqing Luo was too lazy to say another word to Yiqing Qian, nor did she care about her sister's twisted expression at this time. She just lightly shifted her gaze to the ring. Numerous holes were blasted out on the ring, flying stones were flying everywhere. Streams of profound energy collided with each other and exploded with a loud bang. Yi Fengyu was obviously forced to retreat again and again by the momentum of the battle. He was hit hard by a sword chi and flew out, rolling on the ground. Eighth brother, if you admit defeat now, I may spare your life. Yiqing Ling stood in the air, yin chi lingering around her. That long dark dress was shrouded in yin chi and overflowed with a black breath. Yi Fengyu clutched his chest and forced himself to stand up. He wiped the blood from his lips, his handsome face was as calm as water. After taking Yiqing Luo's medicine, all his senses were blocked. He could not feel any pain. Fourth sister. Yi Fengyu breathed heavily, clutching his chest and gasping for air. His face was pale. I'm sorry, I want to enter the Heavenly Academy. He glanced sideways and fixed his gaze on one side of the arena. If it wasn't for the fact that Yiqing Luo was clear that she and Yi Fengyu were not in the same space, she would have suspected if Yi Fengyu had seen her. Coincidentally, his gaze met hers. Yi Fengyu's eyes were very bright, and the corners of his mouth curled into a firm smile. Immediately, the hand holding the long sword tightened and with a leap, he once again rushed into Yiqing Ling's attack range. That one look made Yiqing Luo's heart suddenly trembled. Yiqing Luo understood, he was fighting for her. If it was in the past and Yiqing Ling wanted to enter the hospital, he would absolutely be willing to give up this opportunity. He still had one more chance to take the entrance exam. He could take the test again in the future. But today he wanted to enter the Heavenly Academy and become stronger to protect his sister. No matter what, he could not let go of this opportunity. Yi Fengyu held the sword in one hand and his figure shuttled back and forth between Yiqing Ling's sword rays. This time Yi Fengyu seemed to have an epiphany as he slashed down with his sword and actually struck with an imposing manner. An unprecedented imposing manner. But, after all, the other party was just a body controlled by the evil sword. Although Yi Fengyu's ruthless moves had hurt Yiqing Ling, it was just like scratching an itch to her. Chapter 100. Yiqing Ling's reaction was extremely sensitive. No. It should be said that the reaction of the evil sword was very sensitive. Every time Yi Fengyu found a flaw in Yiqing Ling's body to attack, the evil sword would control Yiqing Ling's body to avoid it. It did not give him any chance at all. Yi Fengyu was once again hit by the sword and flew to the ground. Yiqing Luo clenched her fists, her charming eyes were deep and terrifying. She tried her best to suppress the anger in her heart. She could not stop this match. Even if she told the master about the evil sword now, it would take a long time to verify whether the evil sword belonged to the dark forces. There were thousands of people in the Heavenly Pagoda. It was impossible for the master to give up the whole match for one student. And what if Yiqing Ling really went crazy and killed her brother the moment she left? She was anxious and impatient, cursing why the audience and the ring had to be separated into two separate spaces. Otherwise she would not have told him about the evil sword. Perhaps he felt the anxiety in Yiqing Luo's heart. Yi Fengyu, who was lying on the ground vomiting blood, suddenly turned over and stood up. This time he didn't lift his saber and rushed forward to meet force with force. Instead he quickly went behind Yiqing Ling, stretched out his long arm and directly grabbed her wrist that was holding the sword. Could it be that the telepathy between siblings is real? Yiqing Luo saw his action and was immediately shocked. This was exactly what she was thinking. Yi Qingling relied on the control of the evil sword to stand on the ring. If her hand was bound, then the evil sword would be controlled. Yi Qingluo stared deeply at her brother's face that was full of blood, and a few blue veins popped out on his forehead. His complexion became paler, and the fingers that were clasping Yi Qingling's wrist tightened little by little. It seemed that he had exhausted all his strength. Sure enough, Yi Qingling's wrist was bound and she could not release her profound qi. Although this move can resist for a while, your brother's strength is too weak. If he is entangled by the evil sword's yin qi, he will be swallowed by the evil sword. Old Man Song's worried voice sounded. Yi Qingluo clenched her pink lips. She naturally understood this point as well. But she believed in her brother, believed in his pure heart. If the evil sword wanted to swallow or control humans, it could only catch a trace of darkness in the human heart. Yi Fengyu was a person with a pure heart. You want to steal my sword? Dream on. A tender shout suddenly came from the arena. Only to see Yi Qingling's aura skyrocketing, a pair of bloodshot eyes shining with a penetrating anger. Being entangled by Yi Fengyu and unable to move had already made Yi Qingling distraught. A stream of mysterious yin qi quickly spread out from the sword. Yi Fengyu only felt a sharp pain in his palm. An ice-cold chill instantly enveloped his entire arm. The pain of being corroded came from his arm. Immediately after, Yi Qingling's figure turned into a spiral snail and flipped in the air, breaking away from Yi Fengyu's grasp. He gave a back kick. It struck Yi Fengyu squarely in the chest. Yi Fengyu let out a muffled groan and was sent flying, crashing into the edge of the arena. This time he fell to the ground and could not get up again. Large mouthfuls of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. Little you. Yi Qingluo hurriedly rushed forward to support him. In front of him was an invisible barrier. She couldn't go over, so she could only watch helplessly as Yi Fengyu gasped for breath. His clothes were already dyed red with blood. Chapter 101. Yi Fengyu, who was lying motionless on the ground. But after hearing Yi Qingling's arrogant taunts, he tightened his grip on the long sword. The long sword was inserted into the ring. That seemingly thin and weak body slowly stood up with the support of the long saber. Don't you dare say that about my sister. He spat out each word through gritted teeth. Yi Qingling was still laughing, enjoying the joy of victory, and didn't hear his words clearly. She glanced at him contemptuously. Huh? A loser still has last words to say? No. Accurate. Say. Sister. Kneeling on one knee, the young man held the long sword with both hands. Every word was sonorous and powerful. When the last word fell, Yi Fengyu turned into an arrow that left the bow and rushed straight towards Yi Qingling waving the long sword. A ray of profound light was forced out from his palm and a strong airflow covered the long sword. Yi Qingluo, who was below the ring, suddenly clutched her chest as a burning sensation hit her. Immediately she saw a 5-pointed star pattern under Yi Fengyu's feet, gradually spreading with the release of profound qi. It was Yi Fengyu's profound great star pattern. Above the crimson-black star pattern, 4 5-pointed stars were floating. This was the display of the mystic profound 4th grade star pattern. Yi Qingluo glanced at Yi Qingqian's side. Both of them looked normal as they stared at Yi Qingling. It seemed that she was the only one who saw the star pattern under Yi Fengyu's feet. Wait a minute. Yi Qingluo frowned slightly, her charming eyes narrowed slightly as she found that among the 4 star patterns, there was another star pattern that was faintly discernible. Immediately after, a violent explosion broke out on the ring. Profound light flashed and gravel splashed. The flying sand and stones blurred Yi Qingluo's eyes, unable to see the situation on the ring clearly. Until the airflow lingered and rolled up a gale, blowing away the flying sand. At this time, Yi Fengyu's long sword slashed horizontally at Yi Qingling's face. Yi Qingling used her evil sword to block his long sword. The sword and the sword faced each other, flashing lightning current mixed with a trace of yin qi. Yi Fengyu actually advanced at this time. Yi Qingqian cried out in disbelief. She was already at the 8th grade of the mystic profound realm. Naturally, she could sense that Yi Fengyu's strength and aura had undergone an earth-shattering change at this moment. Don't underestimate the advancement of a grade. An ability of the same grade was on a completely different level. How could it be? Lung Fenghua's face darkened, unable to conceal the astonishment on his face. He had investigated Yi Fengyu's information. Although his profound heart jade couldn't be considered low-level, it definitely couldn't be considered mid-level aptitude. Otherwise, Yi Fengyu wouldn't have been stuck at the 3rd rank of the mystic profound realm, and hadn't advanced for an entire year. This time, he actually advanced to the profound rank in the arena. Yi Qingluo was rather astonished by Yi Fengyu's advancement. Then he felt relieved. Cultivating and becoming stronger was just an obsession in one's heart. Just like her, she wanted to survive in a different world. Yi Fengyu, on the other hand, wanted to protect her. When a person is in a desperate situation, it is the easiest to stimulate their latent abilities. Yi Fengyu felt like he was going to die, but his obsession with his sister had awakened his potential, and thus achieved the advancement. This was also why some people worked hard for a lifetime and still couldn't break through the barrier, and why some people could easily advance. Because everyone's state of mind was different. Above the star pattern under Yi Fengyu's feet, the 4 stars had indeed become 5. Mystic Profound 5th grade. At this time, Yi Fengyu's whole body was shrouded in the advancement halo. A powerful airflow lingered around his body. Chapter 102. Although Yi Qingling's body had been controlled by the profound Yin sword, her consciousness was still there. At this moment, a sense of fear arose in her heart when she saw her brother's cold eyes and the way he fought head-on without a care for his life. How could the cowardly 8th brother who she had always looked down upon have such a strong aura? What kind of magic did Yi Qingluo have? Not only was she reborn, she could also change the people around her. Thinking of Yi Qingluo, Yi Qingling's heart burned with jealousy. I wanted to spare your life. Well, the game is over. The profound Yin Qi surged in Yi Qingling's eyes. In an instant, countless chilly auras blossomed from her body. The long sword that was confronting her brother began to tremble. Not good. She has merged with the evil sword. Old Man Song's anxious voice came. Merged into one? Yi Qingluo's face turned pale. Yi Qingling actually hated her that much? Even at the cost of sacrificing herself, she wanted to put her brother to death? Becoming one with the evil sword that controlled him was equivalent to completely offering his soul to the evil sword of oblivion. If she was lucky, she could still pull out her consciousness from the evil sword. But if she was unlucky, she would be devoured by the evil sword and become its food. Girl, if you want to save your brother's life, leave here immediately and find the Master of Justice to admit defeat on his behalf. Old Man Song quickly gave a solution. Admit defeat? Yi Fengyu had held on until now for this opportunity to enter the academy. He would not agree to admit defeat. Don't think so much, that kid still has one more chance to enter the academy. He still has another chance when the Heavenly Academy recruits new students. Old Man Song's voice became more and more impatient. Staying alive is more important than anything else. Even if he lost his life, he would still lose this match. Keep his life and he would still have a future to fight for. Old Man Song would not say this for no reason. Yi Qingluo took a deep look at the stage, at the corner of his mouth overflowing with blood, but still stubbornly refused to let go. She took a deep breath and closed her eyes. She condensed her consciousness and returned to the audience area. Ziling saw Yi Qingluo moving and anxiously grabbed her arm. Miss 8th Young Master. 8th Young Master. Before he could finish speaking, a bag of superior profound stones had already been stuffed into his hand. Yi Qingluo's figure speedily moved around the spectators' area. Her footsteps were strange, and after a few twists and turns, she was already behind the main stage. Behind the main stage there were several tables. A few elders in white robes were sitting there lazily. Yi Qingluo noticed that the metals embedded on their robes were different. They are bar-shaped and of different colors. It should represent their status in the Heavenly Academy. Yi Qingluo's gaze swiftly searched and finally fixed on an elderly man. The old man was sleeping on the table. Beside him there were 2 words written in a flamboyant style: Justice. Yi Qingluo couldn't see the badge on his chest, so she assumed that this should be the Master of Justice. Yi Qingluo walked over. The few masters who were still chatting with each other suddenly stopped talking at this moment. Each of them widened their eyes and looked at Yi Qingluo in astonishment. That's not Old Man Guiyu. That girl actually walked towards Old Man Guiyu. Little girl, do you want to die? How dare you disturb Old Man Guiyu's sleep? Will someone die? It will affect the school spirit of the Heavenly Academy. A group of people were discussing over there. Yi Qingluo didn't ponder who Old Man Guiyu was at this moment. Chapter 103. The old man who was lying on the ground had no reaction at all. Yi Qingluo was so anxious that she couldn't care less about the fact that he was a master from the Heavenly Academy. She stretched out her hand to push him. But before her hand could reach him, The unconscious old man's arm was like a poisonous snake as it suddenly came forward and grabbed her slender wrist. Yiqing Luo's eyes darkened as she pressed the old man's withered fingers. She exerted her strength to break free from his grip. "Who is it? Who dares to touch me while I'm sleeping?" The old man woke up as he roared and slammed the table as he stood up. Yiqing Luo saw the old man's appearance clearly. The old man was over 50 years old. He was thin and had a squarish face. He had a white beard. No matter how she looked at him, he was just an ordinary old man. But Yiqing Luo couldn't ignore his pair of bright and piercing eyes. It was very sharp and it shone brightly. When he saw clearly that the one standing in front of him was a delicate girl, his face turned even uglier. "Master of Justice, I want to admit defeat on behalf of my brother," Yiqing Luo immediately said. "What do you mean admit defeat? Don't bother me?" The old man waved his hand with an impatient look. "It's just a competition. Is your school trying to kill someone?" Yiqing Luo was anxious. She didn't know what was going on in the arena. But she understood that if she didn't end Xiao Yu's competition soon, she was afraid Xiao Yu's life would really be at stake. If one's skill is not as good as others, even if he dies, he will still live. Before the old man could finish his sentence, he was interrupted. Because the little girl in front of him flipped her palm and the bowl of cold water on the table floated straight into the air and covered the old man's head. Her action was swift and without hesitation. Yiqing Luo's eyes were cold and her tone was covered with frost. "Skill is not as good as others? If it's really not as good as others, I won't say a word." She sneered and looked straight at the old man. The dignified Heavenly Academy, during the ability assessment, students used illegal items to compete and you didn't even realize it. This is the school's lack of supervision. However, the surrounding masters completely ignored Yiqing Luo's words. They looked at Yiqing Luo in astonishment. Were they seeing things? Someone dared to splash water on old man Guiyu's head? Who was old man Guiyu? He was an existence that no one in the entire academy dared to offend. In the entire Heavenly Academy, there were only a handful of people who could tie with old man Guiyu. Most importantly, this old man Guiyu was a crazy old man. Even the headmaster had to avoid him when he saw him. This little girl dared to provoke old man Guiyu? This was definitely going to kill someone. Just as the few masters were pushing and shoving, wanting to push out someone to ease old man Guiyu's temper, old man Guiyu calmly took down the bowl on his head and wiped his face. Which space? 302. Guiyu waved his sleeves and a miniature image of the heavenly pagoda appeared in front of him. His hand lightly touched the image. Immediately, arena number 302 disappeared from the screen. At the same time, Ziling's shrill scream could be heard from the square. "Eighth young master! Eighth young master!" Yiqing Luo's heart trembled and her brows knitted into a ball. She thanked old man Guiyu and immediately turned around and walked towards the direction of the voice. "Wait!" Old man Guiyu called out to her from behind. Yiqing Luo's ears were filled with the two screams of Ziling and did not pay attention to old man Guiyu's voice. Using his footwork, he turned into a shadow and quickly disappeared in front of old man Guiyu. Chapter 104. On the square, Ziling was half kneeling on the ground, dragging a bloody man in the crook of her arm. Yi Fengyu's green robe was stained with blood, and fresh blood was constantly overflowing from his body. Ziling's clothes were also stained with a large patch of red. Yiqing Luo stood on the side, expressionless. A pair of charming eyes that seemed to be covered with frost quietly stared at Yi Fengyu. His face was pale, and the corner of his mouth overflowed with blood. His hand tightly grasped the long knife. Even if he was unconscious, he was not willing to let go. That long knife, only half of it was left. Yiqing Luo's heart thumped, and her chest was choked with discomfort. She just stood there, her slender body trembling slightly. She did not dare to touch the young man who was lying there quietly. The Mu brothers also came out of the space where they were watching, and immediately trotted over when they saw the current situation. Mu Zifan half squatted down and quickly gave Yi Fengyu a simple examination. Serious internal injury, excessive blood loss, urgent treatment. Mu Zifei took out a few medicinal pills and stuffed them into Yi Fengyu's mouth. "First stop the bleeding, call someone to bring the stretcher." Two doctors surrounded Yi Fengyu, busily rushing back and forth. The onlookers all sucked in a breath of cold air. They rubbed their eyes and looked again. Damn it, they were not mistaken, they were really the two young masters of the Mu family. The future leader of the Alchemist Guild, the successor of the Mu family's medicine shop, was treating an unknown young master? One must know that many people in the past begged the Mu brothers to see a doctor, and even offered all their family property. They may not be able to get the Mu brothers to agree. Even the people from the royal family could not shake them in the slightest. After everyone saw the serious injury of Yi Fengyu, they all observed a moment of silence for the person who injured Yi Fengyu. "Oh, this is the consequence of angering me." Yi Qingling's insolent voice came from the side. Because Yi Fengyu admitted defeat, Yi Qingqian and the others also teleported out from the number 302 space. Seeing the woman standing quietly in the square, she lowered her head and stared at Yi Fengyu as if she was crying. Yi Qingling's heart was full of joy. Yi Qingluo dared to destroy her profound jade heart. Then she would use the cruelest way to expel the people around Yi Qingluo step by step. She wanted to see Yi Qingluo in so much pain that she wished to die. Yi Qingling thought about it bitterly, the smile in her eyes added a bit of viciousness. "Seventh sister, elder sister has already advised you and eighth brother that if you really can't win, just admit defeat. Look, why did it have to come to this?" Yi Qingjian followed closely behind, pretending to be gentle and pitiful. "You can't blame others if you're too weak. In this world the strong are respected." Leng Fenghua's lips curled up as he spoke. In actual fact, when he saw Yi Qingluo standing there expressionlessly while Yi Qingluo was seriously injured and unconscious, he felt extremely refreshed. His cold eyes narrowed slightly as he strode complacently towards Yi Qingluo. The current Yi Qingluo was like a stray dog. He didn't believe that at this point in time, Yi Qingluo wouldn't open her mouth to beg him for help to teach Yi Qingling a harsh lesson. "If you want revenge," Leng Fenghua's self-righteous words had just left his mouth. Yi Qingluo turned her head and looked at the Mu brothers. "Please, if little you is fine, I will repay your kindness tenfold." After saying that, she walked past Leng Fenghua and completely ignored him. Yi Qingluo walked directly to the main stage. Her line of sight was fixed on old man Guiyu, who followed her out from the backstage. "I want to participate in the admission assessment." On the main stage sat 3 masters, all of whom were highly respected in the Heavenly Academy. Seeing Yi Qingluo's rudeness, their faces sank. Chapter 105. The implication was that if Yi Qingluo wanted to take revenge for her brother, then there was no chance. Because in the ability assessment 3 days later, Yi Qingling had already become an official student and could not accept any challenges. Yi Qingluo's lips curled up slightly, her eyes narrowed with a cold glint. Half an hour. The crowd was stunned for a moment, unable to react to the meaning of Yi Qingluo's words. By the time they recovered their wits, the square was in an uproar. Pass the 10 assessments in half an hour? What a joke. For hundreds of years, the shortest record was 24 hours, and this was set by the genius from the Yi family hundreds of years ago. How could anyone break this record? The crowd pointed their fingers at the girl in the middle of the square. No one would believe it. Even the 3 masters on the main stage felt that Yi Qingluo was making fun of them. However, only old man Guiyu stared at Yi Qingluo meaningfully. After a while, he stroked his beard and smiled cunningly. "All right. I will make an exception for you on behalf of the Heavenly Academy. As long as you can pass the 10 assessments in half an hour, you can directly become an official student of the Heavenly Academy." The masters wanted to refuse, but after old man Guiyu opened his mouth, they swallowed their words. This old man Guiyu, what kind of existence was he in the Heavenly Academy? Looking at the badge on his chest, there was only 1 yellow bar. He seemed to be the lowest level master in the Heavenly Academy. But, on the main stage, those teachers with 5 to 6 horizontal bars were also very respectful towards old man Guiyu. When old man Guiyu opened his mouth, they didn't even dare to make a sound. Strange, so strange. While Yi Qingluo was deep in thought, old man Guiyu continued, "If you can't pass in half an hour, I'm at your disposal." Yi Qingluo raised her head, her eyes were full of confidence. "There's no need for disposal. If you can't pass in half an hour, then you will be my disciple. How about that?" "Disciple? Old man Guiyu, you're not serious, are you?" The 3 masters on the stage widened their eyes and stood up in shock, pointing at old man Guiyu. "There are so many geniuses in the academy, but you chose this one. Don't you know she is the one from 3 Springs sect?" Many people had heard of Yi Qingluo's good name, but had never seen her before. Hearing the headmaster's words, the person from the 3 Springs sect immediately understood. This beautiful but extremely arrogant woman was the useless young master of the 3 Springs sect. Even if a piece of trash who had been trash for more than 10 years suddenly comprehended the cultivation method, it would still be impossible for him to pass the 10 tests that countless profound practitioner geniuses feared within an hour. Everyone's gaze towards Yi Qing Luo was no longer stunned by her beauty, or pitiful or sympathetic gazes. Instead, he looked down on her and mocked her for overestimating herself. An hour? Is this 7th young lady of the Yi clan a good-for-nothing? She's become stupid. Ah, he's definitely a fool. Some time ago, I heard that she rose to fame with a single battle, beating up the genius young mistress of the Three Springs Sect Prefecture so badly that she couldn't even fight back. Rumors are just rumors. All sorts of mocking and ridiculing words rose and fell. Old man Guiyu, who was sitting in front of the main stage, crossed his arms over his chest, his shrewd and sharp eyes stared straight at Yi Qing Luo. How about it, have you thought it through? Chapter 106. Shut up. How can the person I fancy be a waste? Old man Guiyu glared at the few people behind him. If you scare my disciple away, I will kill you all. The faces of the 3 teachers were red and green from being reprimanded in public. However, they suppressed their anger and sat down, not saying another word. This old man Guiyu was not a simple person. Yi Qing Luo squinted her eyes slightly, her pink lips hooked and nodded. All right, I will bet with you. Old man Guiyu was all smiles as he jumped down from the main stage and stood in front of Yi Qing Luo. He stretched out his hand and gently patted her shoulder. My good disciple, I will wait for your return here, haha. He had already regarded Yi Qing Luo as his disciple. Yi Qing Luo's mouth twitched. If you don't play any tricks, half an hour is enough. No, I am such an upright and kind person, how could I play tricks behind your back? Old man Guiyu waved his hand. The crowd couldn't believe their ears when they saw the scene in front of them. One by one they dug their ears and rubbed their eyes. But the image of old man Guiyu smiling at Yi Qing Luo was still fresh in their minds. What the hell? It was not an illusion. It was not a hallucination. Old man Guiyu really wanted to take Yi Qing Luo as his disciple? Especially Yi Qing Qian, her gentle and beautiful eyes were unable to conceal her own hatred and jealousy. Old man Guiyu was just an ordinary and lowly master in the eyes of ordinary people. But as one of the 4 sects, Three Springs Sect, how could they not know the name of old man Guiyu? Even her master, the head of Shijing Sect, was not as high as old man Guiyu. Why was Yi Qing Luo so lucky? Previously she had the overlord's clothes and now old man Guiyu had his eyes on her. She was just a waste, what right did she have? The more Yi Qing Qian thought about it, the more jealousy she felt. Her little hands clutched her exquisite robe and wrinkled it. Where do we go for the assessment? Yi Qing Luo didn't want to waste any more time. Old man Guiyu's lips curled up as a trace of cunning flashed across his eyes. With a sway of his white robe, the heaven pagoda in the middle of the square shook slightly. Shortly after, a door opened beneath the heavenly pagoda. When a ray of white light shot out from the open door, the 3 masters on the main stage could not sit still. Old man Guiyu, you are... Before he could say anything, old man Guiyu glared at him. Was there something wrong with this door? The expressions of the 3 teachers were obviously very surprised. What did old man Guiyu do? He was really persistent. In order to take her in as his disciple, he was going all out. Yi Qing Luo took a deep breath. No matter what old man Guiyu did, as long as it was the 10 assessments, she would be fine. After that, she walked towards the pagoda. Suddenly, a whirlwind in the horizon brought along a storm of profound energy that enveloped the entire sky. The originally sunny weather suddenly turned dark and gloomy. It was frighteningly gloomy. The onlookers were all attracted by the powerful celestial energy, and their gazes all turned to look at it. A few silhouettes appeared on the horizon from afar. What is that? Nine-tailed fox. It's actually the holy beast nine-tailed fox. There seems to be only one person in the world who owns a nine-tailed fox. Don't tell me, he is here? In the dark sky, a white nine-tailed fox was suspended in the air. The nine-tailed fox's limbs were burning with sparks, and its 9 long tails were swaying with the wind. Surrounding the nine-tailed fox were 4 people dressed in black. Chapter 107. The 3 masters stood up one after another, respectfully stepped forward and bowed deeply to the nine-tailed fox. A figure jumped down from the back of the nine-tailed fox. That person was dressed in a purple robe, embroidered with a jade belt, and his hair was fixed with a wooden hairpin. The wind blew and the cloud-like hair scattered. There was a faint smile on his peerlessly beautiful face. It was obviously a smile, but it was so breathtaking. yet it made one's hair stand on end. The aura of disdain was treacherous and piercingly cold. It pressed heavily on the hearts of everyone present, making them want to kneel down subconsciously. On his finger, there was a blood-red ring with a faint flame jumping. Overlord. It's the Overlord. Only the Overlord can tame the sacred beast nine-tailed fox. The elusive Overlord. Is he here to watch the ability assessment of the Heavenly Academy? After recognizing the identity of the Overlord, everyone was excited. The Overlord, the most powerful person in the Nirvana realm. And the world's first palace. The Palace Lord of the Imperial Palace. That was the man known as the Legend. He was mysterious and powerful. No one knew exactly how great his forces were, and no one knew exactly how powerful he was. Greetings to the Overlord. The three masters behind him recovered from the shock and got up one after another and knelt down behind Dmo Xian. They were highly respected people in the Heavenly Academy, and it had always been others who fawned on them. Standing in front of Dmo Xian, all of them were instantly crushed into dregs. When the masters knelt down, the people in the square followed suit. The entire examination plaza was filled with a dense mass of people. Only the two people under the main stage stood straight and were particularly conspicuous. Yiqing Luo frowned slightly. What was he doing here? And he even used such a flashy way to make an appearance. Old man Guiyu and Yiqing Luo stood side by side. A pair of treacherous eyes revealed a bit of brilliance. Seventh sister, don't mess around. Quickly kneel down. Yiqing Qian saw Yiqing Luo was still standing, and immediately scolded her in a low voice. She raised her eyes to take a look at Dmo Xian and her cheeks immediately flushed red as the young lady's heart thumped wildly. Dizun was really as handsome as the rumors said. He was so handsome that it made people blush and their hearts beat faster. Her eyes were fixed on him and could not move away. Lung Fenghua knelt by the side, and when he saw Yiqing Qian's expression, his handsome brows knitted into a ball as a trace of disgust flashed past his eyes. Yiqing Luo couldn't be bothered with them at all. Under the silent and submissive Overlord's imposing manner, she strode towards the profound pagoda. Come here. A clear and melodious voice that was like mellow fine wine seeped into their eardrums and intoxicated their hearts. Yiqing Luo's footsteps halted as she frowned. The tens of thousands of people kneeling on the ground raised their heads and looked left and right, wondering who Dizun was calling. But no one was seen walking towards Dmo Xian. Following his line of sight, all of them looked towards Yiqing Luo. But very quickly he shifted his gaze away from Yiqing Luo and looked towards the direction of the crowd. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched. She knew that Dmo Xian was referring to her. She didn't want to become famous in this way. If she got involved with Dmo Xian, she would also become the target of everyone's gossip. Yiqing Luo immediately lifted her legs and quickened her pace towards the profound pagoda. On the main stage, the tall and stalwart man's thin lips curved slightly as his eyes squinted slightly. Suddenly he leaped up and stuck close to Yiqing Luo. His long arm hooked around Yiqing Luo's waist, his long hair cascaded over her shoulders. Chapter 108. The air seemed to have solidified. The atmosphere was strange and a little scary. Yiqing Luo's face suddenly darkened. Let go. Dmo Xian rested his head on her shoulder. We haven't seen each other for a few days. Ah Luo, don't you miss me? I don't. He answered without hesitation. Yiqing Luo's eyes twitched. You are the Overlord, aren't you afraid of being laughed at by pestering a waste like me? Laugh? Who dares to laugh? Dmo Xian's deep black eyes glanced around, his lips curled up into a very shallow sneer. Whoever laughs, I will destroy that person. That aura that looked down on the entire world suppressed everyone present, and no one dared to make a sound. Did he need to be so overbearing? Yiqing Luo now deeply understood what it meant by the fist is the hard truth, what it meant by the strong being respected. Those who came to watch the ability assessment were mostly rich and powerful. The 4 great families, 4 great sects, various forces and so on, had all sent their representatives here. These people in the Nirvana realm, no matter where they went, they would be flattered and fawned upon. However, in front of Dmo Xian they were as humble as ants. No one dared to laugh, no one dared to make a sound. Dmo Xian retracted his gaze when he looked at Yiqing Luo. The expression on his face was tainted with gentleness. Ah Luo, aren't you going to ask me where I have been these days? Where you have been, what has it got to do with me? Yiqing Luo sneered, broke away from his arm and looked up at him. A pair of slightly narrowed charming eyes, cold and absolutely without any extra emotions. Although Yiqing Luo's words were so ruthless. But in her heart, there was an inexplicable feeling of relief. It seemed, she was glad that Diamo Xian had indeed returned. The last time they parted on bad terms, it was as if nothing had happened. This thought made Yiqing Luo's heart suddenly tremble. She immediately lowered her eyes, her long curly eyelashes were like butterfly wings, gently fluttering a few times, slightly flustered. I'm going to participate in the entrance assessment first. Yiqing Luo turned to leave. Her wrist was once again held by Diamo Xian. Wait. His slender fingers easily circled around the hand that was encircled by the ring. Yiqing Luo stared at the circle of warmth on her wrist and was no longer as resistant as before. This is for you. Diamo Xian opened his palm and a red feather fan floated above his palm. His fingers moved slightly and the feather fan automatically moved into Yiqing Luo's hands. The moment the feather fan entered her hands, Yiqing Luo could obviously feel that this feather fan's texture and material was absolutely not an ordinary item. In particular, this feather fan was blood red in color, and the red feathers were faintly flickering with red electric currents. Just like the profound phoenix ring, it exuded a mysterious power. This is. Yiqing Luo's fingers waved the feather fan, it felt great and smooth. Diamo Xian's black eyes narrowed as his long and narrow eyes curled into a devilish arc. Betrothal gift. Do you have to say something so shocking? Yiqing Luo had the impulse to return the feather fan to Diamo Xian. Girl, this is a good weapon, a good weapon. In her mind, Old Man Song's excited voice suddenly came, Gourd flame fan. This is a devouring flame fan that can grow. Glowing flame fan? Yiqing Luo's pupils contracted as she looked at the feather fan in disbelief. There was only one gourd flame fan in the world. Although it was not a legendary weapon, but it was more precious than a legendary weapon. Because the gourd flame fan had the attribute of growth. It could grow step by step according to the user's ability. Girl, don't you ever reject it. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Old Man Song knew Yiqing Luo too well and was afraid that she would really return the gourd flame fan to Diamo Xian, so he spoke quickly. Chapter 109. Yiqing Luo wasn't a hypocritical person. But Diamo Xian's betrothal gift really shocked her. This wasn't the first time Diamo Xian brought up this topic with her. Although she knew very well that it was impossible for her to have any relationship with the almighty overlord. But everyone has a love for beauty. She was after all a woman. Hearing such a peerless handsome man flirting with her time and time again? What if she took it seriously? Then wouldn't it be better if it becomes real? Diamo Xian suddenly leaned close to her face and his warm breath sprayed on her skin. That warm and moist touch gave Yiqing Luo goosebumps on her skin. The woman in his arms trembled slightly, and her ears turned red in an instant. Seeing this, the smile in Diamo Xian's eyes deepened. Yiqing Luo heard his smiling voice and her cheeks turned red. How did he know what she was thinking? And what did he mean by that? Then become real. What the hell was that? Damn it. Could he not always say something that would cause people to misunderstand? Yiqing Luo silently praised the overlord's flirting skills for 32 times in her heart. Don't let your imagination run wild, don't think too much. Yiqing Luo hypnotized herself and took a deep breath. Suddenly her elbow lifted up and following that, she lifted up her leg and kicked backwards fiercely. Diamo Xian seemed to have expected Yiqing Luo's action. His body tilted slightly and with a grasp of his arm, he easily blocked Yiqing Luo's attack. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Yiqing Luo's figure turned and the gorgeous sunset robe fluttered like a blooming rose. Her wrist instantly broke free from Diamo Xian's grip. Yiqing Luo retreated 5 steps away from Diamo Xian. I'll accept the glower flame fan, I owe you a favor and will definitely repay it in the future. Yiqing Luo's index finger fanned the feather fan as she clasped her hands together and cupped her fists towards Diamo Xian. Finishing her words, she turned around and headed towards the direction of the heavenly pagoda. Behind her, Diamo Xian's abstruse eyes were like obsidian, pitch black and undistinguishable, so treacherous that not a single color could be seen. The corners of his lips curled upwards and the arc of his eyes became deeper. The surrounding people held their breaths, their hearts beating like drums. Get up. Diamo Xian slowly turned around, the expression on his face had already reverted to his usual icy cold and dignified expression. He slowly walked towards the main stage. The 3 masters immediately gave up their positions and stood beside Diamo Xian in a fawning manner, carefully serving him. Everyone had the same question in their hearts. How did the overlord know the 7th young mistress of the Yi clan? Furthermore, their feelings for each other were clearly extraordinary. Especially Yi Qingqian, her entire face was completely twisted. The last time when Yi Qingluo had a corner of Dmo Xian's robe, she was already guessing the relationship between Yi Qingluo and Dmo Xian. But it had been a long time since he had seen Dmo Xian and Yi Qingluo in contact, and heard from Wuxia that Dmo Xian was only interested in Yi Qingluo for a moment. Thus, he did not take the matter of the clothes to heart. But, today Yi Qingqian had personally witnessed Dmo Xian's attitude towards Yi Qingluo. That gaze was filled with love. What right did a piece of trash, a notorious piece of trash, have to be favored by the overlord? The person whom the overlord liked should be her, Yi Qingqian. How could Yi Qingluo be worthy of the overlord? The countless grievances in her heart made Yi Qingqian determined that she must firmly hook Dmo Xian into her heart. Chapter 110. After entering the heavenly pagoda, Yi Qingluo was transported to a void space. As for the 10 assessments, if she did not guess wrongly, it should be based on the comprehensive strength of intelligence, ability, strength, potential and so on before entering the heavenly academy to undergo the assessment. These, to Yi Qingluo, could be passed in minutes even with her eyes closed. In her previous life, she was regarded as the future head of the family since young. Whatever 10 assessments, whatever tests, those old men would come up with different ways to assess if she had regressed. So, whatever assessment, it was not a problem for her. That was why she dared to say half an hour. After her marrow cleansing, with the help of old man Tsang, and after passing the first layer of purgatory, her strength had been greatly improved. Her profound grade had now reached the yellow profound 9th grade. Although this profound grade was not considered the top among the students in the heavenly academy, but it was at least an intermediate level. What's more, she had the sacred beast Qi Qi and the glower flame fan that Dmo Xian gave her. After the first assessment began, Yi Qingluo's face revealed a satisfied smile. Sure enough, it was as she expected. The 10 assessments were exactly the same as her assessment in the modern era. The only difference was the slight difference in strength. But it did not matter. At the assessment square, there were students who were eliminated one after another, and there were also numerous students who challenged the successful students. But obviously, the attention of the people in the field was no longer on these students. They were all looking up, their eyes wandering between the heavenly pagoda and the main stage. On the main stage, the incense which represented half an hour had already burned halfway. Time passed by in a flash. Everyone's heart was in their throats. Old man Guiyu, half an hour? Can she really pass the assessment? The 3 masters had a complicated expression on their faces. They did not like Yi Qingluo. If she could really pass the assessment in half an hour, she would become an official student of the Heavenly Academy. If it was more than half an hour, Yi Qingluo would be accepted as a disciple by Old Man Guiyu. Based on Old Man Guiyu's protective character, wouldn't Yi Qingluo be able to do whatever she wanted in the Heavenly Academy? Their idea was to hope that Yi Qingluo failed the assessment, then they would have enough excuses to refuse her admission. But now there was the overlord. Their hearts almost collapsed. If Yi Qingluo failed the assessment, the overlord would be infuriated. The consequences were simply too frightening. They didn't dare to think about it. The assessment shouldn't be a problem, but it's only an hour. Old man Guiyu smiled slyly, his eyes curved. I have specially chosen the 10 most complicated assessments in the heavenly pagoda. I will definitely accept this disciple. The 3 masters turned to look at Dmo Xian. But she discovered that Dmo Xian had been resting with his eyes closed and did not show any displeasure towards Old Man Guiyu's words. They heaved a sigh of relief and surrounded Old Man Guiyu to stop him from talking. 10 of the most complicated tests. How is it possible to finish it in an hour? In the 3 Spring Sects area, Yi Qingling revealed a gloating smile. This little waste is too good at showing off. I think she won't even be able to pass the assessment and will only bring shame to the Yi family. That was what everyone else was thinking. A few hundred years ago, the one who set the record of 24 hours was still a simple test of 10. Yi Qingqian's vision had always been on Dmo Xian. Hearing Yi Qingling's words, her red lips curved slightly and nodded slightly. Arrogant, you have to bear the consequences. She even dared to talk big in front of the overlord and attract his attention. The 10 most complicated tests that were tricked by Old Man Guiyu in half an hour? Chapter 111. Half an hour was neither long nor short. There was still a small part of the burning incense left. Old man Guiyu smiled brightly, his face beaming with joy. Even the way he looked at Diamo Xian was filled with pride. The only thing missing was the word son-in-law. The three masters were sweating profusely as they tugged at old man Guiyu. They thought to themselves, old man Guiyu is indeed a madman. He is not even afraid of the overlord. Please don't implicate them and cause them to lose their lives. Just as the main stage was bustling, a ray of white light flashed in the heaven pagoda. Vaguely, he seemed to see a slender figure leisurely stepping out from the profound pagoda. She's out. It's the seventh miss of the Yi family. She really came out. Half an hour? It's not even half an hour. There's still a small part of the incense left. Oh my God. This is definitely an illusion. How could it be possible? How could she pass 10 assessments in half an hour? Suddenly, the crowd broke out in a flabbergasted discussion. Everyone's eyes widened in surprise. The white light contrasted with the setting sun. The woman in a flamboyant red dress walked over gracefully. Her fine black hair fluttered along with the strong wind and the corner of her skirt was like a blooming flower. The woman was devastatingly beautiful, exuding a suffocating beauty. A palm-sized kitten sat on the woman's shoulder, adding a touch of gentleness to the woman. Everyone's eyes followed closely on the woman, unable to move away. Half an hour I passed. The woman's pink lips curved slightly as she looked up at the main stage. Her tone was flat and her expression was indifferent. She was not the least bit excited about passing 10 assessments in half an hour. The three masters' jaws dropped to the ground as they rubbed their eyes in disbelief. And the masters, their figures flashed and went straight into the heaven pagoda to check if there was any loophole that allowed Yiqing Luo to cheat. But after going around the pagoda, they did not find any problems. The three masters discussed with the four masters who were guarding the square in the heaven pagoda. These four masters were the masters of justice. They knew everything that was going on in the pagoda like the back of their hands. The four of them were extremely certain that Yiqing Luo had used her own ability to pass the 10 assessments in one go, without any form of cheating. The time it took to brew a cup of tea had passed. The three main examiners returned to the main stage stiffly and announced, "Congratulations to 7th Miss Yiqing Luo for passing the complicated 10 rounds of assessment in less than half an hour. She has been specially approved to become an official student of the Heavenly Academy." My disciple is ruined? Old man Guiyu's smile froze on his face. He opened his mouth wide and pointed at Yiqing Luo. My disciple, can't you give me some face? His face fell and he covered his face. My disciple. It's rare for me to accept a disciple. The three sovereign god teachers who had been frozen stiff, were already rooted to the spot. There was no expression on their faces at all. Yiqing Luo walked slowly towards the main stage, but her sight was fixated on Yiqing Ling. That icy cold gaze was like a poisonous snake, wrapping around Yiqing Ling's neck. Yiqing Ling felt a chill down her spine and subconsciously tightened her grip on the long sword in her hand. Just when Yiqing Ling was on tenterhooks, she saw Yiqing Luo walking straight towards old man Guiyu. Senior, I have already been apprenticed to the master. I cannot betray the master and be apprenticed to you. If senior does not mind, please accept my younger brother Xiao Yu as your disciple. Although she did not know much about old man Guiyu, but she knew that he was definitely a person with a strong influence. Chapter 112. Old man Guiyu frowned and stroked his mustache. Who is it? Who is it? Who dares to snatch my disciple from me? Those who knew old man Guiyu's identity stared at her fiercely after hearing Yiqing Ling's rejection. They couldn't believe their ears. Someone actually refused to be old man Guiyu's disciple. How many people wanted to be old man Guiyu's disciple? But old man Guiyu's temperament was eccentric and temperamental. Even the director couldn't control him and refused to accept him as a disciple. Yiqing Luo actually gave up such a good opportunity? One by one, they were guessing who Yiqing Luo's master was to make her reject old man Guiyu and not betray her master. Yiqing Luo only raised her eyes and glanced at Diamo Xian's direction before immediately withdrawing her gaze. She didn't say a word, but this action was like a stone falling into the calm water, setting off a huge wave. 7th Mrs. Master is actually the Overlord? No wonder, the elusive Overlord would appear here. He even specially brought the glower flame fan for 7th Miss. Damn. With the Overlord as her master, if it was me, I would not betray the master either. As long as she was involved with Diamo Xian, all the impossible became possible. Just like Yiqing Luo, who had been useless for more than 10 years, suddenly became so powerful. Just like Yiqing Luo, who could pass the most complicated 10 assessments. Everything was so natural. Damn. Overlord boy. You actually beat me to it? Old man Guiyu blew his beard angrily. Overlord boy? Sounds of people sucking in cold breaths could be heard from all around. This, perhaps only old man Guiyu dared to call Diamo Shen like this? The extremely lazy man slowly straightened his body. His long and narrow eyes squinted, his slender fingers seemed to be unconsciously playing with the ring between his fingers. The curve of his rosy lips faintly revealed a bit of evil. Just a glance and old man Guiyu, who was still rolling up his sleeves in indignation, instantly lost all his arrogance. He caressed his white robe and snorted a cold breath. Fine. I won't accept this girl, I won't. I will accept this lass's younger brother as my disciple. When she sees me, she will still have to call me teacher. After that, old man Guiyu rubbed his nose and looked at Yiqing Luo unwillingly. Little girl, just you wait, when I defeat the overlord, I will snatch you back. Yiqing Luo's mouth twitched. Old man Guiyu's obsession with taking her as his disciple was too deep. Little disciple, come over. Diamo Shen suddenly raised his hand and beckoned towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Little disciple? What the hell? This time round, Yiqing Luo's eyes also twitched. She braced herself and resigned herself to fate as she walked over, fearing that Diamo Shen would put on another, if you don't come over, then go over drama. Flipping over onto the main stage, Yiqing Luo stood in front of Diamo Shen. Diamo Shen stretched out his hand and patted his thighs. Little disciple, sit here. The way the two of them acted as if there was no one else around made the jaws of the surrounding people drop to the ground. Previously they had guessed that Diamo Shen was Yiqing Luo's master. Now that Diamo Shen had called her little disciple in public, didn't that mean that he had admitted it? But the atmosphere between them was really not like that of a master and disciple. On the contrary, it was like a pair of lovers throwing a tantrum. This thought made everyone present shake off their goosebumps. Not only the crowd had goosebumps, even Yiqing Luo had goosebumps all over her body. Sit over there? Sit in his arms. Chapter 113. Yiqing Luo turned her head stiffly, pretending not to see Diamo Shen, and looked directly at the Three Springs sect. When her line of sight was fixed on Yiqing Ling, her gaze became awe-inspiring. Since I've passed the admission assessment, then I will now challenge the students who have passed the ability assessment. That's right. The purpose of her participation in the entrance examination was to defeat Yiqing Ling and destroy the evil sword that had caused serious injury to her brother. It was not for the sake of squabbling with Diamo Shen. Yiqing Ling subconsciously shrank behind Yiqing Luo, frightened by the look in her eyes. He gripped the demonic sword in his hand tightly, as if this was the only way he could feel at ease. You have the right to refuse, don't accept her challenge. Yiqing Chen lowered her voice and said quietly. Yiqing Ling's breathing quickened as she nodded stiffly. The two sisters were discussing when they saw Yiqing Luo condensed her profound qi and spread her voice. As everyone knows, the Heavenly Academy's recruitment of new students is extremely rigorous and strict. It also upholds the principle of fairness and openness, resolutely protecting the fairness of all students' assessment. As she spoke, Yiqing Luo's gaze had already shifted to the main stage and the three masters. I would like to report that the fourth miss of the Three Springs sect, Yiqing Ling, in order to pass the ability assessment, did not hesitate to borrow the power of the dark forces to obtain the qualification to pass. May the masters investigate this. When Yiqing Luo said that, it shocked everyone present. Everyone's eyes were instantly focused on the Three Springs sect's area. Dark forces? The righteous Three Springs sect was actually involved with the dark forces that were despised by the world? He had actually fallen to the point where he needed to borrow the power of the dark forces to pass the ability assessment? Everyone's gazes changed from the initial admiration to disdain and mockery. Yiqing Chen's expression instantly darkened. She had never expected that Yiqing Luo would disregard the Three Springs sect's reputation and expose Yiqing Ling in public. And because Yiqing Ling had been pressured by Yiqing Luo's gaze several times, her heart was palpitating with fear and trepidation. The only way she could feel at ease was to hold on to that long sword. Under the watchful eyes of the public, Yiqing Ling naturally had no way to hide the evil sword, otherwise it would look like she had a guilty conscience. At this moment, Yiqing Chen finally understood why Yiqing Luo hadn't reported them right from the start. Instead, he purposely used an hour to pass the entrance exam to stun them, occasionally glancing at them from the corner of his eyes. It was to arouse the fear and dread in Yi Qingling's heart. In this way he would be caught red-handed. In the depths of Yi Qingqian's beautiful eyes, there was a look of deep thought. Her seventh sister actually had such a terrifying shrewdness? You are slandering me. Yi Qingling blushed under everyone's stares and stood up in anger. This sword is borrowed by my eldest sister from her master. It's naturally different from ordinary swords. The devouring flame fan in your hand was also given to you by His Majesty. It is also different from ordinary fans. Yi Qingling was smart for once. Don't tell me that you're using this glower flame fan to take the entrance exam and I have to say that you're borrowing the power of the dark forces? What he said seemed to make sense. Moreover, that sword was borrowed from the head of Shijing sect, so it was natural for Yi Qingling to improve her strength. 7th Miss Yi, just as 4th Miss Yi said, do you have any evidence to prove that she had used something from the dark forces? The master carefully asked Yi Qingluo while looking at Dmo Xian's expression. Chapter 114. This challenge Yi Qingling could neither accept nor reject it. If she rejected it, it would be a tacit admission that her long sword belonged to the dark forces and it would implicate the Shijing sect's head. If she accepted the challenge, it would be fine if she defeated Yi Qingluo. But if she lost, wouldn't that expose the evil sword and the dark forces item? Let everyone know that Three Springs sect colluded with the dark forces. Three Springs sect would be completely destroyed. Did Yi Qingluo really want to destroy Three Springs sect? What? Is fourth sister afraid? Yi Qingluo's long and narrow eyes raised slightly as a playful smile hung on the corner of her mouth. Yi Qingling was so angry that her whole body trembled and was about to open her mouth when her sister pinched the flesh on her arm. She endured and ignored Yi Qingluo's provocation. Even if fourth sister doesn't dare to accept the challenge, I think the Master of Justice will do a comprehensive check on the profound item in fourth sister's hand. Yi Qingluo sighed faintly and murmured casually. But this murmur was clearly transmitted to Yi Qingling's ears even though it was a long distance away. Immediately, Yi Qingluo raised her head and her eyes were full of ridicule. Forget it, since fourth sister is still so afraid of me even with the help of the divine item, I have nothing to say. Yi Qingluo's words made everyone present look at Yi Qingling with even more ridicule and disdain. Even with the sword borrowed from the Shijing sect's head, she didn't dare to accept the challenge of a useless sister for more than 10 years. Everyone began to question whether Yi Qingling's sword was a profound item and they all threatened to ask the Master of Justice to thoroughly investigate Yi Qingling's weapon. When everyone looked at Yi Qingluo, their faces were full of worship and surprise, and some of their eyes were full of reverence. In this strange world where the strong were respected, strength was respected. This was the benefit of strength. Even if you used to be a waste that was reviled by others. But once you had enough strength to make others fearful, those black spots would be completely erased. Who said I'm afraid of you? Alright, let's do it. Yi Qingling had always been thin-skinned and had always been flattered by others. At this time, under Yi Qingluo's words, everyone looked at her with such disdain and ridicule. Her fragile heart couldn't take it anymore. She immediately stood up and pointed her long sword at Yi Qingluo. Seventh sister, I'm just trying to save your face, to save the Overlord's face, that's why I'm tolerating you again and again, but you insist on being so overbearing, fourth sister won't be courteous. Yi Qingjian's face stiffened and the hand that was holding onto Yi Qingling slipped down without a trace. Damn idiot. Yi Qingqian's heart was boiling with anger as she started to develop a sense of disgust towards this twin sister of hers. But since Yi Qingling had already accepted the challenge, there was no room for retreat now. She had to suppress the anger in her heart, put on a gentle and generous smile and said gently, Seventh sister, we are sisters. Harmony brings wealth. Sisters. Earlier when fourth sister injured Xiaoyu till he fainted, why didn't you think that he was also your eighth brother? Yi Qingluo snorted coldly. Yi Qingjian was deflated and her face changed slightly. Ling has never understood propriety. Regarding eighth brother's matter, eldest sister is here to apologize to you. How much is your apology worth? Yi Qingluo rolled her eyes disdainfully. Now I'll kill you and then apologize to you, alright? You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.